Okay, so good morning, everyone. I think we are live. We can start the session. A very warm welcome to all of you to this discussion, which addresses a prominent theme of ESG practices and initiatives. ESG is more than good intentions. It's about creating a tangible, practical plan that achieves real results. Success is not about climate change, diversity, and disclosure alone. It's about embedding these principles and move across your business from investment to sustainable innovation, bringing together your best people and smartest technology so you can see more, go deeper, and act swiftly, enabling you to tackle the biggest challenges of today and capture the best opportunities of tomorrow. Today, we have with us a galaxy of dignitaries with rich industry experience in our panel. All the deans, honorable faculty members, officers, staff of NITIE, students, and all the participants that have joined through the YouTube platform. With much pride and elation, I welcome you all to NITIE Green Latin, a platform where we invite eminent personalities from reputed and leading organizations to present their perspectives and views about various themes in the field of sustainability to inspire the next generation of business leaders. Now, I would like to call our Dean, Student Affairs, Professor Rauf Iqbal sir, to address the gathering. Over to you, sir.
Good morning to everyone, respected panel members. I am really thankful to you for visiting NITIE, a very important part of this Avartan program, Green Lantern. It has been since long we are, as long as the history of Avartan, and initially it was ISEM, Industrial Safety and Environmental Management. Now it is Sustainability Management. Green Lantern is a very integrated part of Avartan. So thank you so much visiting NITIE. I can see the galaxy of experts are sitting here to have their views. Actually, because of COVID, there was a little slowdown in the activity of Avartan. But now it has taken a very its proper speed and momentum. And I can see the galaxy of experts are sitting here. So I welcome all of you on this NITIE platform, sir. Thank you for visiting, and I hope that in future sometime we will meet you physically here. We will be eagerly waiting to meet you on NITIE platform physically. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your warm welcome and giving us this opportunity to learn and host the event. I would now request Professor Seema Unikrishnan ma'am to introduce the theme for today's discussion, ESG practices and initiatives. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Shubham, and thank you, Professor Iqbal. He has so many events and he still made time to come here. And as Shubham said just now, he had introduced the topic quite well, I would say, in the beginning. ESG is a lot about transforming the way corporates think. And we would say that NITIE is also playing a role, like what Professor Iqbal told. We have renamed our program as Sustainability Management Program. This program we have been actually running for almost 22 years. It is the 22nd batch that we have with us. Earlier it was the PGD ISEM, now it is a sustainability program. And I'm also happy to say that among the illustrious panelists today, we have two of our own illustrious alumni, Prashant and Rahul Nene. He is joining from Norway. So I'm really happy that they are also a part of this illustrious panel today. And a warm welcome to all the dignitaries on the link. And we are happy that you could make time. And as how well Shubham had already introduced, we have come a long way in environmental, social, and governance practices and initiatives in our country. In fact, I can see it happening even in our campus. The last few months, we have conducted more than 10 programs, that is the environmental, social, and governance certification programs for the industry. We have sort of covered the BRSR, the GRI standards, the SASB standards, and we have been conducting exams and giving certifications. So there's a whole demand for even ESG courses. And even for our students, we have introduced core courses on ESG. We have introduced electives on ESG because we see the demand in the industry going up. We also see how the integrated reports of the industry are being made. They have integrated the global reporting initiative, the GRI standards with the BRSR, the SASB, the TCFD. We have a whole lot of corporates now integrating the standards and reporting, which brings about more transparency. More than anything, we see that there is more transparency happening in the industry. And all the corporates are moving in the right direction, I would say. With this brief, I will invite Shubham to take over. Shubham, over to you, please.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for setting the context for today's discussion. Without taking much time, we'd be inviting our panel members one by one, starting with the first speaker. Alok Mishra, sir, is an experienced EHS and sustainability professional with over 20 years of experience across a wide spectrum of industries like refinery, pharma, agribusiness, food and beverages, and large infrastructure, implementing EHS and sustainability practices. He is passionate about driving ESG agenda in large complex organizations by managing their environment and social impacts and building long-term partnership with communities and partner organizations. He has collaborated with top financial institutes in the world, including IFC, AFDB, FMO, DEG, etc., on the implementation and reporting of ESG practices. He has also pushed for businesses to assess their exposure to climate risk and to implement mitigation measures in line with TCFD requirements. His current area of interest is the evaluation and mitigation of supply chain and E&S risks. He is also ranked fourth among the sustainability leaders nominated by Sustainability magazine. It's great to have you here, sir. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Shubham. That was quite an elaborate introduction. I am really honored, privileged to be invited to this platform. And it's always, great to come back and connect with an institution like NITIE. Well, I'm not exactly an alumnus of NITIE, but Professor Seema, I'm really happy to let you know that when I was at IIT, Professor Anju Singh was my MTech thesis guide. So I do have a connect with NITIE, and it's a pleasure actually to come back, speak to the young talent coming into the industry. And presently, I think the times are extremely interesting for the ESG and sustainability professionals. I think we all started off being environment professionals, more or less, and gradually, the domain expanded, and today we call ourselves the ESG professionals. And I think no better time than today, the way the industry is opening up, the way the external environment is changing, and the way suddenly, the world has taken up this topic of ESG. So it's a great opportunity to share what I have experienced over the last few years working with some of the industries, the large industries who have that scale and probably have that kind of an impact on environment and communities. So thank you, Shubham. Thank you, Professor Seema, for having me. A very good morning to all my co-panel members. It's a pleasure to see you all. It would have been much more pleasure if probably would have physically met each other. But nevertheless, I think NITIE at least provides us this platform to come together and share.
Thank you. Yeah, please.
Okay. So if the the program allows me to share a few slides, because then I could also talk about in a more structured way and introduce myself from the organization perspective, so that there is a connect of what we are doing in the context of the industry which I'm working today. Yeah, I can do that.
Yes, sir, definitely. You can share the screen.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Give me a moment. I'll try sharing the screen. Shubham, please let me know if it is visible.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, great. So I currently am working with the Wellspun Group, and Wellspun Group today is, I think, a conglomerate of 3-4 large businesses, primarily beginning with the textile business, which probably you would have, greater chance of coming across. So the Wellspun Textiles is one of the leading home textile manufacturers in the country and probably across the world. The second business of Wellspun Group is in the steels and we are manufacturing large diameter pipes, which we normally supply to the large, the oil and gas businesses across the world. We are also into the infrastructure business, and we have also recently started off with the warehousing and logistics business. And I'm really happy to share that sustainability is one of those key functions in the group today that we are able to, or rather, each of these businesses today have an integration of sustainability within them. The philosophy of the business today, the core sentence that we talk about, that businesses today have become or can be an agent of change. Now, of course, if you look across the industries, you will find industries or companies at a different level in this band. Some are ahead and have already very mature practices, whereas some are catching up. But I think you will find industries across this whole entire band, and what Professor Seema was mentioning, that this heightened interest is coming from this acknowledgement that the world around is changing, and we need to actually respond to the changes happening around us. The way we define the ESG vision at Welspun, we have crafted this and we try to address the 3 elements of ESG. And by defining and stating that our aim is to be kinder and gentler to the planet tomorrow than we are today, to improve the lives of the people we serve as well as those we work among, and do it all with a sense of integrity that is second to none. And that is how we define our commitment to the 3 elements of ESG, which also becomes the larger, the larger goal of sustainability for organizations. The way I would say the impact on the environment has happened, we plan to reduce it in the best way possible. We want to increase the impact on society through our programs that we run among communities. And then we want to have a very transparent and accountable governance mechanism. We started this strategy and we went through a program through which we carried out and crafted the entire initiative, the basket that we have today. And it all started by doing a maturity assessment of our practices. This happened about a couple of years back. Then we carried out a materiality analysis to understand the key issues concerning our business today. Then we carried out a gap analysis based on what needs to be done and where we are, what needs to be picked up, tightened, improved upon. And then we developed a roadmap. We build, goals and targets depending on the material issues that we identified, and then build up a roadmap as to how we will progress towards the achieving the ultimate objective. And finally, when all of this is getting done, the communication and reporting has to play a key role, because as again, the world has opened up with so many different forms and templates of reporting. What it actually signifies, while of course it has complicated reporting space, but certainly what it shows is the heightened interest among all stakeholders to know what is happening within the organization. Some of the key objectives on which Welspun is working today, as you would see, the top of it is obviously to be completely migrate from coal-based power usage to renewable energy. We have a target for 20% by 25 and to be 100% on renewable for power and, if possible, on heat as well by 2030. Since we are totally dependent on cotton as a raw material, and I'm talking about the textile business right now, since cotton is our key raw material, we have taken up a huge target of moving completely on 100% sustainable cotton by 2030. We are currently at 45%, and we wish to be around 50% by the next couple of years, and then move on to 100%. Interestingly, for a textile company, we have taken up another a very huge challenge for ourselves to be freshwater positive. And if we all understand the textile business, it is, apart from the cotton, I would say the second biggest natural resource that we use is water. But we want to challenge ourselves to to try and see what we can do and actually try and achieve a freshwater positive status. Zero hazardous waste to landfill. I think most of the organizations today have a zero waste target. We have a target on impacting 1 million lives through our social programs. And we also have a target for about 50,000 farmers to be participating in our sustainable farming project. So this gives you a sense of what we want to do in some of the areas. It doesn't, of course, cover the entire basket of the activities, but at least it gives you a sense of what kind of ESG initiatives we would take. And once you see that once the targets are built up, then there are initiatives planned on each of these different targets and goals. Let me take you through a few of them, in a short. The first one, as you saw, was on carbon neutrality. And what we have done, I would say, is that while we are in the stage of evaluating the various options on renewables, there are a couple more options which are available today in terms of setting up renewable, plain solar, hybrid solar, solar plus wind, then either going through a power developer or setting up yourself or taking it on the grid and so on. And all of that stands on the basis of how good is your accounting system currently. So we spent some time on accounting the carbon emissions, and we sort of built a baseline last year by a very thorough exercise of picking up each and every source of emission and energy usage through either fuel or electricity and build up the scope 1, 2, I would say about 100% coverage. Scope 3 today is about 6 to 7 category of emissions, and we are progressing to achieve as many of them so that what are relevant to us as a business, and to be maybe by this financial year we want to close the scope 3 emissions as well. The current slide shows you the last year's scope 1, scope 2 emissions. We did about 10 lakh tons of emissions last year, totally about 15 plus lakhs of CO2 emissions. While we started developing the decarbonization plan, we all know that today we have a framework available, the Science Based Target Initiative, and we used that framework to build our decarbonization plan. We have submitted a commitment letter to the SBTi and are working on putting out the targets also for this year. I think one of the key initiatives which we are very proud of at Welspun is the initiative on water. And as you saw that we have a target of, putting ourselves and defining the benchmark for the textile industries, because normally in my experience, I've not come across industries talking about at least imagining a freshwater positive status. And this initiative which I'm talking about is such a key initiative, considering the background in which this has been set up. And what this initiative is that we tied up with 3 municipal areas of this plant that we have in Kutch district of Gujarat on the northern side. It's a water scarce region. There's hardly any rainfall. I would say about 20 centimeters annual rainfall, and in such a district to even have a textile plant itself was a huge challenge, because the source of water is through the Narmada Canal, which reaches Kutch, and summer months it is the water quality and the quantity both is left more and to be desired. So it was a big challenge, and what we decided, or the company thought of, is an excellent initiative, not very commonly seen and heard of in industry today in the Indian context. We tied up with 3 municipal areas of Gandhidham, Adipur and Anjar, small towns, about a population of 5 to 10 lakhs. And we set up a sewage collection mechanism. We set up the pipeline collection mechanism, the pumping stations, to bring the entire sewage of 3 municipal areas to our own facility, where we set up a state-of-the-art sewage treatment plant, a 3-stage sewage treatment plant to completely treat the sewage water and then use the treated water for complete operational use. And I'm really happy to say that this Anjar facility, which is the largest manufacturing facility for Welspun, does not use even one single drop of municipal water for its operation. Last year, we got awarded the best industry by the Ministry of Jal Shakti, and the award was given out by the President of India. And when the plant manager, plant head, he went out to receive this award. And it's such a key initiative which has solved so many of the problems. It solved the problem for industry because there is no shortage of treated and a good quality of water for us, not only today, but maybe even if we try and look for expansion going forward. And at the same time, what it has done, it solved a huge municipal problem because the sewage, which was, before we set up this operation, the sewage was not even being collected in a right way, and it was all being let out in open drains, and it was flowing into the tidal areas. It was moving into those because this is a marshy stretch. So it was flowing over, and if you probably sort of imagine what kind of environmental challenges this scenario poses. So this solution was actually solved all these multiple challenges. It solved the public issue. It solved the industrial challenge. It was so good for the environment because now neither the land is getting polluted nor the receiving water body is getting polluted. Everything has been dealt in such a good way. And we didn't stop there. So what we did was that because it's such a 30 million liters day plant, which treats about 7 billion liters of water on an annual basis, and it's a biological treatment process. So we also generate a lot of sludge. And what we have done now is that we are collecting that sludge, doing the dewatering process, and then utilizing it for building compost. Now that is again one more waste which has been converted into a resource. And that's a project that we are really proud of. And we talk about this in all forums possible because this is also to probably look for other industries to adopt. Moving on from the water project, we have the next target that I mentioned was on sustainable farming. We are currently sourcing 45% of our entire cotton requirement through the Sustainable Cotton Initiative. We run a program with the farmers across 3 states in the country. We source it from Telangana, Maharashtra, and Gujarat, and we enroll the farmers towards the good agriculture practices, which is moving them out from the conventional cotton. And we carried out a life cycle study of conventional cotton, and we observed that there was at least 70% reduction in the environmental impact between what a conventional cotton does and an organic or a BCI cotton does. And it's a phenomenal success in terms of reducing environmental impact through this project. Mindful of time, I'm just not going into the details, but I'll be happy to take you through if there is an interest in these programs. A summary of what we do. I mentioned about the water management. I mentioned a little bit of the sludge usage, energy conservation practices, use of biomass in the boilers to reduce dependence on coal, waste heat recovery. These are all energy efficiency programs. And we are building a roadmap for renewable energy because our goal is to at least be 20% on renewable by 25 and 100% on renewable by 2030. We also have a large green belt at Anjar. We are in the process of carrying out a biodiversity impact of this because we have planted more than close to 3 lakh trees now. The number on the right shows 2,60,000, but that's added up. And we are now close to 30,000 trees or 3 lakh trees in this facility, which is actually, if you look at from the top view, you would not find this kind of a green belt or a green stretch across multiple kilometers in the surrounding of this place. So it has a very positive impact on the biodiversity of the region. So, we're trying to do a structured biodiversity assessment of this area. And maybe next time around, I would be able to share insights on how this project has helped improving the biodiversity. We have a lot of circularity initiatives, and one initiative which I really want to talk about is this initiative called SPUN. Spun initiative is actually where we have connected the textile waste usage to women empowerment in the communities around our facility at Vapi and Anjar, where the two facilities are based. And what we have done is that the various textile waste which is generated, while the manufacturing of the bed sheets and the towels and stuff, what we do is that we collect the textile cuttings and we take it to women centers which we have set up in the villages. And these centers are so set up that they actually do not have a fixed timing for any women to come and work. Depends on when they are free. So we have tried to see that the social, cultural, we don't force anybody to do what they want to do. And we bring them there. They're a small group of women, 10 plus women in each center. And we have established these centers across 15, 16 villages. And these women come and do handcrafted articles from the textile waste that is generated. And we are happy to say that about 2 tons of waste that we use through this mechanism in a month. And what it has done is not only solve a bit of the textile waste problem, but also it has empowered women in creating a livelihood for themselves, because these handmade items like the cushion covers, the wall hangings and all of that has actually, we have tied up with IKEA to take these products and sell on their platform, and it helps to so integrate and provide them with this opportunity for better livelihood. So these are the initiatives I would like to mention here, share with all of you, and so thankful for giving this opportunity. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much, for showing us all the wonderful initiatives taken by Welspun. Now, what we were thinking is that every speaker will get around 10 to 15 minutes to present, and we'll have the question answers at the end. So I will over to you, Shubham.
Okay. Thank you, Alok sir. It was an insightful session, ranging from process of materiality assessment to reporting and sustainable sourcing and farming and various initiatives for water conservation and zero fresh water manufacturing, to integrating circular economy with social initiatives. These are some of the initiatives you mentioned, which are very beneficial for the understanding of ESG initiatives for our students. I would like to call our next speaker, Ashok Athawase sir. He is the Director of Sustainability at Coca-Cola India. He has an excellent 20 years of experience working with Coca-Cola, beginning in the year of 2000 with the graduate engineering training program. He progressed to several supply chain facets such as HCCB plant operation, regional technical services, and commercialization at BU. His passion for providing solutions, adding value, and succeeding with system partners has resulted in commercialization of numerous new products, technologies, value engineering products, and QAC solution projects. These projects include 40 plus capacity expansion that enabled an year-on-year business growth for the past 12 years and the construction of 4 new cutting-edge greenfield plants. It's an honor to have you here, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Shubham. And I realize maybe I'll shorten my LinkedIn paragraph so that it's little less elaborative. But thank you so much, Shubham, and thank you, Professor Seema, and the whole NITIE team, for inviting us here. We are very proud to have associated with NITIE. We had the Mantra graduates from NITIE there, so a bright student, and it reflects the kind of curriculum you have and the kind of education that is being given at this great institute. So really happy to be here, and among this esteemed panel, I saw the profile, and so many panelists are here with such a wide experience. So good to be part of all of you, and good to meet all of you. Let me start. I would take about, let's say, 10 to 15 minutes, as Shubham mentioned. I won't use slides in a specific way, but maybe I can refer to our sustainability report, which kind of captures the summary of what we do in the whole ESG space. Before I get into that, just wanted to reflect a few thoughts. I truly believe And if you see my background, I'm coming more from a supply chain background and a pure technical and engineering career. And getting into ESG about 2 years back is one of the best thing to happen, because all that we have learned and all that we have done kind of ultimately comes together very nicely when in this field, because if you have to really have impact in terms of environment, social, and governance, a lot of these things depends on the supply chain part of it. Not all of it, of course, because everything, whether it's water, carbon, circularity, related to supply chain. So that's one connection I really think is important to mention. For if we see ESG, one of the other thing I learned and I wanted to share with the students is historically, the share market, the way it has been created, it's about value capture. You see the companies, the way they get rated, not now, but historically, it's about value creation. We typical business schools used to teach us P ratio and market capitalization and all. And for good, over last 2 decades, the way world is changing, and particularly in the corporate sector now, the things have moved from EHS reporting to now overall ESG, which is much more holistic, covering all the facets. So from value capture, we are going to value creation, which is I think a great direction for the industry, because ultimately it will be about from are we doing no harm by doing the business, or are we creating something good? So a lot of us, I mean, the whole industry is thinking of going from doing no harm to doing good, which is a great direction again. And all this kind of just some of the themes which I also knew and I learned, and how they really impact in a real way currently how businesses are operating. So I just thought of mentioning that. Coming to our company specific ESG priorities, let me show this report is available on online. I'm sure some of you must have already taken a look at it, but maybe I'll use it for talking another 10 minutes. So I mean, Coca-Cola company, most of us, operating in 200 countries, more than 136 years of heritage. The purpose of, as stated, is refresh the world and make a difference. So while refreshing world remains the core purpose of the business, make a difference, I think is equally important, and that is how the whole objective or purpose statement is. And let me show you, after you go through the chairman and CEO message, of course, and I'll go to the executive summary later, but let me just take a look. I don't know if it is too small, but again, the company facts, we are operating 200 plus companies. There are 200 plus master brands, and many of them a $1 billion plus brand now. 225 bottling partners. The way we operate, our system gets organized. So the company, and then we have bottling partners worldwide who actually does the production and manufacturing and selling. And some of these bottling operations are also owned by us in some territories. When it comes to sustainability, business priority is very clearly called out here. Water leadership all along, one of the most important ingredient for us, and we consider it as a shared resource. And you will see a lot of emphasis happening on water leadership, whether it is to do with reduce, reuse, recycle, and replenish, finally giving back to the nature. So water leadership is one of the key pillars. Reducing added sugar, we realize the choices that consumer needs to have in terms of beverages, and that is where this lot of work happening on this pillar. World without waste is related to the circularity and reduction of waste, whether it is plastic and other waste that gets created during the whole supply chain operation. And a lot of emphasis and a lot of work you will see when I go to an individual pillar happening in terms of tackling the plastic waste problem, which is the overall industry and a social problem, and we feel important that we need to play an important role here in terms of finding the right solutions along with the industry. Climate, again, no need to talk about the importance part of it. We, as a company, have taken a very ambitious goal of reducing 25% absolute carbon by 2030 and carbon neutrality attempt by 2050. Some of those also needs, like Alok mentioned, scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3, we are aligned with the SBT methodology. And after doing the baseline of 2015 in those scope, which is still, I would say, is evolving and fine-tuned. Now, the enablers which can actually reduce the scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emission, that is what the key focus area is. Sustainable agriculture, again, one of the very important pillar. In India also, there's a project called Project Unnati. You might have seen and heard. It has won many of the awards. There are almost 150,000 farmers which has been touched by this program and benefited. We have been working on this since 2016, and of course the people and communities. So that's our overall ESG priorities from a global point of view. Let me talk at least maybe 2 or 3 of them in the limited time. When we see water leadership, of course, the reduction of water has been the key goal, and we have been working for last decade. Our water usage ratio, how we measure it, has reduced significantly from maybe 2+ to now in the range of 1.6, 1.65. The another important aspect is the replenishment or giving back to nature. So at global level, almost 167% of water replenishment projects are driven, whether it is to do with the big projects like check dams and rainwater harvesting and other projects. Also, now our priority is actually to go watershed by watershed analysis of wherever we operate, and then look at the watershed development and recharge in those zones. That is the key priority for the water. In India, in fact, our replenishment number is even higher. Right, you must have heard Anandana is one of the Coca-Cola India Foundation sponsored a project which has done numerous amount of replenishment projects, including in water stress areas like Rajasthan. And our replenishment number in India is like even more than this, in the range of 300+. So there's a lot from water point of view which we want to achieve, and we continue to strive more. Of course, this is not all done, and continuous efforts are happening to bring in the new technologies which can further reduce the water consumption, which can by recovery, reuse. Most of our plants have tertiary treatment now, which means that as much as possible, wherever for the non-product purpose, water can be reused from the tertiary treatment. I would, next topic, maybe I'll directly go to World Without Waste. Again, there are 3 pillars which this program covers: so design, collect, and partner. Primarily, why this, when it comes to design, would be related to making the packaging material recyclable itself. And ensure that we continuously work on developing packages which can reduce weight. For example, in India, you would see a small bottle 250 ml with a small neck. Earlier, that bottle used to be maybe 20 gram, 24 gram, because for the carbonated beverage, the retention of gas is very important for getting a right consumer experience. You won't like a Coke if there is no enough gas in it. And the smaller bottle, because of the surface area versus volume equation, gas used to emit goes very fast. So there is a laser, there's a plasma coating technology which has been implemented, and Coke is a pioneer in that. And India, in fact, is the first one in worldwide, because our temperature conditions are harsher compared to, let's say, other part of the world, and hence the gas retention is so important here. So we reduce that one bottle weight to almost 9.6 gram, which is like 30, 40, 50% reduction, depending on where we were earlier in different regions. So just to mention that, and there's a huge investment, of course, behind that, developing that technology, which is like a plasma coating inside. It's like a glass coating inside a plastic bottle, in a simple way, saying. And that gives us shelf life of 6 months plus, compared to normal 1.5 month, which we used to get in a normal plastic. So design pillar covers those kind of initiative. Collect, of course, our stated goal is that by 2030 we want to collect back a bottle for every bottle we sell, or a can. And a lot of effort, and this is the area where we all know that a lot of efforts needs to happen as an industry, as an ecosystem, and we are partnering with industry partners, people, to develop those collection models. And as you would have heard, in India, recycled PET is going to be a law by 2025, which is a good step, because we wanted to use recycled PET in our bottle because the technology is available to make it food grade, and our laws kind of till that time in food grade it was not allowed, and rightly so, after a lot of industry efforts. This and the great step from our forward-looking regulators, this law has come, and we are working very actively to get that 30% back, and year on year, then further even increase recycled content, and that's part of our commitment also, as part of World Without Waste. In climate, again, as I mentioned, the goal is to reduce 25% emission as part of SBT framework. Well, again, here I would say that the journey has started. A lot of work has happened within Scope 1 and Scope 2 in terms of reducing energy efficiency, recovery of energies, recovery of heat, and use of renewable energy. So in India, our fuel energy, if you see there are two energies, right? The electricity and fuel. Almost, I think, don't quote me on the number, but it's there in our sustainability report. But 75% plus of our fuel energy comes from renewable sources, which is biomass or clean sources like CNG. And electricity, we are working very aggressively on getting RE, renewable energy. Electricity in wherever state policies are more conducive, I think the progress is much faster. And even otherwise, wherever we can go for solar panels on roof or a third party offsite, that's happening. So solar energy is one of the key pillars here. And of course, the Scope 3 emission is one of the biggest, which we are working with our upstream and downstream partners to reduce further. Those are the three big pillars I think I would stick to right now, considering the time and most important ones also. And I'll be happy to take any questions later, Shubham, on any of this. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for that very wonderful presentation, Mr. Ashok. Shubham, over to you.
Thank you, Ashok sir, for giving us insights on ESG from a beverage industry point of view, highlighting majorly on water leadership and plastic waste problem, and also mentioning about electricity usage, mentioning targets and enablers which will help us in achieving those targets. It was a very enriching session from you. I would like to call our next speaker, Manoj K. Rustagi sir, He is the Chief Sustainability and Innovation Officer at JSW Steel. He is a senior business leader with expertise in sustainability, innovation, business strategy, consulting, new business development, and blueprinting engineering, and execution of large capex product. Sir is an Indian School of Business MBA graduate with a focus on analytical finance and operations management. His insightful commentary on sustainable materials nurturing a net zero environment was highlighted in ET Infra Roads and Highways Summit 2022. He was also a featured speaker at the GCCA India e-conference 2022 for a discussion on circular economy. It would be an honor to hear from you, sir. Over to you. Sir, your voice is not getting through. Sir, you are not audible.
Yeah, hi Shubham, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, we are able to hear you now.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Prof. Seema. Thank you very much for having me, and it's been an honor.
Thanks
Uh,
to you too.
yeah. I would love to come to the campus sometime. I think it's
Yeah,
been
we would also love to have you here.
yeah. So the maybe as Prof. Iqbal said, maybe the next time, we do it
Yes,
on
surely.
campus. So a warm good morning to all these students. I'll be talking about the what we are doing at JSW in terms of the ESG initiatives and the practices. Uh, the JSW Cement is a cement manufacturing company. So for us, within the ESG framework, one of the major pillar which we work on is the CO2 emission. So that's the E part of it, where considering that the cement manufacturing is a hard to abate sector, and there are process emissions, which are happening. So that's a challenge for us, and that's an opportunity for us, which is there. Let me share the presentation, and then maybe we'll just go through that. Just one sec.
The share button is next to the mic. The arrow up next to the mic is the share button. So your audio, we are still having an issue. Mr. Manoj has raised his hands, Shubham.
So I think there's some issue with the audio.
We are able to hear you in between clearly. We have lost your audio again, sir. We're not able to hear.
Sir, can you try to rejoin? Or you can use the earphone if it's issue with the mic.
Sorry for this technical glitch.
Ma'am, with your permission, can we go with the next speaker?
Yes, I think we can just tell Mr. Manoj the same. Oh, I think he's joined again. Let's see whether we are able to hear him.
Yeah,
Sir?
can you hear me now, Prof. Seema?
Yes, we are able to hear you
Okay.
now.
Yeah. I think some issue with the firewall. I do not know. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, we are able to hear you now.
Yeah. So maybe I won't put the share, onto the
Yeah,
screen.
you can speak. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So so the coming back to, I was talking about the cement industry and the concrete industry. So if we look at the global scenario, the concrete consumption globally is in excess of 10 billion cubic meter per year. After water, concrete is the most used man-made material in the world. And this, we see concrete everywhere. It's if you look at the properties, I mean, it is abundant, it is affordable, it's locally available, and it is one of the cheapest building materials, which is around 7 rupees a kg or 8 rupees a kg. And it is at the same time a strong, durable, resilient, and safe. So concrete is going to be there, till the time humanity is there. There is no substitute, which is there in terms of the properties of any other building material. So that's something, which we accept, and that is something, which we really say that okay, if it is going to be there, then what we can do it, to make it like green or make it like more sustainable material. The some of the other data points, which are there on the industry again. The global consumption of the cement, only the cement, is around 4.2 billion tons. And the CO2 emission, which is coming out of the manufacturing of that cement, is around 2.5 billion tons, which is 7% of the total greenhouse gas emissions, which happen globally. So if what has been happening in India and globally is the more focus on the energy and the transport, which is the 50% of the greenhouse gas emissions, globally. But then the if we remove those, the 7% is one of the highest, in the remaining 50%. Where is this emission coming from and why it is hard to abate is, the cement manufacturing process involves limestone mining, crushing, then processing it in the pyro process, and then grinding it before it is packaged, in 50 kg bags. The chemical chemistry wise, it is the calcium carbonate, which is the limestone, and that is calcined to calcium oxide. So the CO2 is part of the ore, which is used, a mineral which is used, and that is what comes out. And that is the 60% of the scope 1 emission in terms of the process emission. The remaining 40% emission is the electricity and the fuel which is used in the process, because the kiln goes up to 1400 degrees centigrade temperature for the reaction to happen. Some of the levers which we use or which we are using, to tackle this problem is the current levers, which are the use of the supplementary cementitious material. Then using alternative fuel. The alternative fuel are RDF and the municipality solid waste, biomass. Some of the alternative materials which replace limestone, like the red mud, marble slurry, lime sludge, or even a steel slag for that matter, and then continuously working on reducing the energy consumption, both the specific heat and the specific electricity. And then the electricity, again, I mean, taking it clean energy, which is a combination of the waste heat recovery, which can happen from the process plant, or the solar and the wind energy. There is a lot of innovation also which is happening in the concrete industry at the same time, which is looking at the low carbon products which are coming up. So LC3 is one of them, and the geopolymer cement concrete, which is a zero clinker. So that's like only 10% of the carbon emitting grade of the cement, which is being worked upon. There are other lot of innovations which are happening in the space, looking at the alternative cementitious material, looking at solar as a source, directly into the process to give the required heat. Also working on synthetic cement, which is based on the bacteria, and also using the agriculture waste, as part of the material into the precast industry specifically. The globally, what has the GCCA, which is a Global Cement and Concrete Association, they have a charter, which is to address the decarbonization of the cement industry globally. We are a JSW Cement is a member of that. We have a chapter in India also. Last year, at the global industry level, they launched the net zero program for targeting the carbon emission to reduce to zero by 2050. So India has, I mean, the Prime Minister of India, last year in COP26 committed India achieving net zero by 2070. For the cement and concrete industry, we've taken a challenge, to reach net zero by 2050. And we are also working on the India-specific roadmap, to achieve this ambitious target. The one of the thing, which is happening, because I said this is it's a building material which is available in abundance, and it is one of the cheapest building materials. One of the thing, the driver for low Government of India has signed up, with the United Nations Industrial Decarbonization Initiative, IDDI, and the Clean Energy Ministerial, which is working on that. And last year, there was an MOU signed with the Government of Germany, Government of UK, Government of India, Government of Canada, Government of UAE, to look for some sort of a policy framework to increase the low carbon procurement for all the public spend. So all the infrastructure projects, all the metro projects, railway projects, flyovers, roads, and all that. The idea is to create a demand for the low carbon and to incentivize, for the manufacturing companies to produce low carbon products once this green procurement kicks in. And this is going to happen. It's just a matter of time. I think my best guess is 3 to 5 years, and we will have the only demand, which is going to be there for the low carbon products in the construction industry. Very brief on the JSW cement. So today we are at 17 million ton. We are part of the JSW group of companies. JSW Steel is the largest steel manufacturing company in India. And we have plans to grow to 25 million ton in the next 2 years' time. We have today the footprint which is there in the southern part of India, western part of India, eastern part of India. We will be expanding to the northern part of India in the next 2 to 3 years' time. We are not a listed company right now, but we have done whatever is needed for a listed company to be doing in terms of compliances. The reason for that is we plan to go public in the next 1 or 2 years. So we started this journey 3 years back, and as a learning exercise, we have reached in 3 years at the same level what a listed company would have been doing. So we have a board sustainability committee at the board level. Uh, Climate change, I explained, we have a target to reach net zero by 2050. And there are other targets which have been taken by us. We are working on, as we talk, on a sustainability strategy, which is going to be which addresses all the aspects of the sustainability. Incidentally, we have done first integrated report also for the first time. We did the materiality analysis last year, and we have done the integrated report this year, which is going to be there available on our website next week. Uh, we do within the ESG framework, the CSR also is an important leg, and then we do a lot of work on the CSR. I'm not going to be talking about the specific projects, but one of the focus areas for us as a strategy is to work on the livelihood. So we believe the best way for the sustainability is to the people we touch upon, wherever our plants are located. We provide ample opportunity, and we train people, to be self-independent, on their own. So livelihood as a stream is something, which we are passionate about. It we run it, all the locations what we have, not only for cement but all the JSW group of companies, whether it is organic farming, whether it is mushroom plantation, whether it is fishing, whether it is the textile handicraft. So all those initiatives, which we take, to work with the people, local people. We have, I said, we have done a lot of work. I think I'm just going to skip these couple of slides, but this is something, which we feel when we look at this graph, feel that we have done some what I would say that effort, which has gone in the last decade, but we still have a lot to do. So we were growing. I mean, it's only a 10-year-old company, JSW Cement, and we were growing at a fast CAGR. So in last 10 years, our production has gone fourfold. But at the same time, the specific CO2, scope 1 and scope 2, when we measure, we have reduced it more than 50%. This is the comparative, where we stand today, with respect to the global average, so which is 600. Our specific intensity is 216 kg per ton of cementitious material. So it's almost 1/3 of the global average. And the idea is to go to zero level, by 2050. One of the thing, and I think it is good for the student community to understand. One of the thing, how do you measure the scope 1? We have been talking about. I think Alok was also mentioning about it. But the scope 1, scope 2 emission, and the scope 3 emissions. The data science behind it, the measurement behind it. There are protocols, which are in place. There are algorithms, which are there, but the point is, it is still something, in India, we have a lot of distance, to cover, and this is a huge opportunity, to do work on even a blockchain or software solutions. That data analytics itself is going to be a full stream, which is going to be there on the measurement of the CO2 and the compliances. So we did our life cycle analysis. We did with a company called Sphera, which is USA based, and they gave us a EPD certificate. Now these EPD certificates, they are like the carbon label, and then they say that, okay, for a particular product, this is what the embodied carbon which is there, which has been emitted into the atmosphere during the manufacturing of the product. So we did that, for our main products, which we have, slag cement and GGBS. I said we have done the first integrated report. We also did the sustainability linked loan with the Japanese bank MUFG this year. where we have taken definitive targets for the next 5 years, reduction in the specific CO2. And our loan is linked to that target, which is there. If we achieve that, that is how, it works out. Uh, we have done, I think the best way to go through this transformation on the ESG is to commit at all levels. We have done global commitments, we have done Indian commitments, which have at different levels, we have committed, and that is how, we go through this process, in terms of transition towards the low carbon economy or the circular economy. We have a product portfolio which is all based on the circularity. Now the principles which are there and why these numbers we have been able to achieve is the principle of circularity, where we are able to utilize, or we work on utilization of the waste coming from the different industries. So today, roughly most of our products, they have got at an organization level, 70% of the waste is the raw material for us. The products which we have done, because they are unconventional products, they're all BIS certified, but at the same time, there is always a question mark. So we did a study with the IDs, GCCA did a study, and then it laid out the benefits, so it is not only that we are able to use the waste while we are manufacturing these low carbon products. It is also that these products are actually better than the conventional cement for specific applications. So these are some of the technical advantages. I think I'm going to be sharing this presentation so that it can be disseminated to the students later on. This is something which I find it very interesting. Is today if I have to buy a flat, or somebody has to buy a 2 BHK or a 3 BHK, we don't really talk about the embodied carbon in the built environment. Most of the people, they are worried about how much is going to be the electricity bill, whether the ACs are 5-star or not, whether the light fittings are LEDs or not. And this is that's the operational carbon is roughly 60% of it, but the 40% of it is the embodied carbon which is here when the building was constructed. And when we did that, the 45% of that 40%, is something which is coming from the cement and concrete. So if we use the low carbon products, of the total carbon, we knock off 10 to 15% of the carbon easily, only by using the low carbon products. There are other ways and means, what the designers, architects, and everybody as a community, we work on, is to optimize on the reducing the quantity of concrete, reducing the quantity of cement in the concrete, and reducing the construction waste. Some of the JSW details, it's all there on the website also. The EPDs also, the link is here. GCCA did a report on the blended cement recently, so that is also there. We have done a sustainability movie. So United Nations, they are going to be turning 100 years in 2045. They started a program, Vision 2045, and JSW Cement was selected among the 50-odd companies, all over the world as the sustainable organizations. They made a movie, for our efforts, and which is here on the website, Router's website, globally available. So that's it from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Manoj.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for that very nice presentation. Now, actually, we were thinking that we would like to request all the speakers to stick to the 10 to 15 minutes timeline so that we have some time for question and answers. Over to you, Shubham. Yeah, we'll take it up at the end, questions.
Yeah.
Shubham, over to you.
Thank you, Manoj sir. Thank you for bringing in perspective from the cement industry point of view, explaining the source of CO2 emissions from cement manufacturing and processes and initiatives to reduce them, ranging from usage of alternate raw materials to moving towards clean energy. You also mentioned about product innovation in terms of low carbon products and synthetic cements, etc. We also talked about some of the government initiatives. This was really a helpful and insightful session. Thank you very much. I would like to call our next speaker, Inderjeet Singh sir. Is a partner and leads the ESG climate change and sustainability practice within financial advisory in Deloitte, India. He has more than 21 years of work experience in ESG, EHS, sustainability risk assessment, policy and regulatory reforms, monitoring and evaluation, climate change mitigation, adaptation, energy efficiency, renewable energy, and sustainable development. He has worked extensively in both private sector players and public sector clients, including international donor agencies such as World Bank, Asian Development Bank, IFC, UNDP, KfW, and GIZ on several occasions across Asia, Europe, and in African region. Indrajit sir is enabling several organizations in their ESG journey. This includes clients from power, oil and gas, pharma, IT, metal and mining, banks, infrastructure sectors. Indrajit sir was a part of G20 B20 task force on energy, climate, and resource efficiency. In his current role at Deloitte, he is associated with a range of advisory activities covering decarbonization, demand, side energy efficiency, supply chain optimization, product carbon footprint, and sustainable resource utilization. It's great to have you here, sir. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Shubham. Good morning, everyone. My only submission to you would be that I have a flight to catch at 2 o'clock, so I would be signing off at around 12 o'clock. In case if there are any questions beyond this particular, so to say 10 to 15 minutes of time that I'll be kind of spending with you in terms of giving an insight from the consulting perspective, if we can get the opportunity to discuss the observations then and there itself. Let's just begin because from the speakers prior to me, you have got a sense of what is happening from the industry point of view, whereas the kind of insights or information that I'll be sharing with you in next about 15 minutes is more from where the consulting ecosystem looks at the developments which are happening within the environment, social and governance space. And this, I believe, is one area wherein the tables have turned for most of the consulting organizations. I believe this is a very happy state wherein we are not going out and spending time with clients and making a pitch presentation to sell our services. The inquiries are typically getting generated from the industry itself, and we are just aligning ourselves in order to provide the solutions to the extent we as a management consulting firm can offer to the clients. I believe ESG is something which has given the right kind of
Mr. Inderjeet, can you also put on your video, please? We are able to see your screen, but we are not able to see you. And we would like to see you, surely.
Sure. I'll switch on the camera.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. We are able to see you also now. Yeah. Please continue.
Right. So it is more of an amalgamation rather than how we used to look at it with respect to the three terms that are getting embedded into environment, social and governance, and rightly so, because let's take several examples which we have witnessed in last couple of years. So if you look at the case of Volkswagen, which happened in 2015, in the month of September 15, Volkswagen was rated by one of the leading players within the sustainability space by ESG ranking and rating agencies. And within a span of 30 days, so between September 15 and October 15, Volkswagen first of all admitted this particular mistake wherein the management colluded with the executive arm and allowed the cheap devices to be implemented into the cars which were sold across multiple geographies. The resultant loss was there, first of all, in terms of the integrity of the organization. The second was how the markets reacted to it. So there was a clear loss of about $35 billion in the market cap of the organization. And since then, they had kind of either admitted to this particular wrongdoing across multiple geographies and settled down the lawsuits, or they are still fighting in some of the geographies wherein you cannot straight away plead guilty, pay up the money and move on. And therefore, it is important for us to understand that it is not that in this case, the governance failure was very much limited into the governance space itself. It had a direct bearing on the environment and how the society reacted to it. So ESG practically is more or less something which is of an extension to the erstwhile sustainability, the term that we have been habitually using. The only difference is that most of us believe that ESG has been created in the last 10 to 15 years only. But if you have to go back into the coinage part itself, the coinage happened way back in 2005. There was a conference which was organized in Europe. The title of the conference was Who Cares Wins. So you can actually go ahead, do a Google search, and you will find a lot of outputs from that particular conference, wherein the ESG was used as a term for the very first time. Why we haven't heard of it for last so many years, and the actions are happening in, say, for example, in terms of the usage in last 3 to 5 years only, is that around 2005, the complete globe was focused on Russian ratification of the Kyoto Protocol. So the focus was more on the reduction in greenhouse gases through the mitigation opportunities, wherein the strategies were defined for developed as well as developing countries, and the focus continued over there. Whereas around 2007 to 2009, sometimes I believe during the US subprime crisis, most of the investors picked up ESG as a term. And the very reason of picking up ESG as a term was that each and every geography, though we have heard that companies are making sustainability representations through reports, through integrated reports, through SASB indexation reports, by participating in carbon disclosure project and so on and so forth, the interpretation of various elements in terms of the disclosure requirements was varying across geographies. And the biggest help that ESG has done to this whole environment of disclosures of non-financial indicators is to bring in the right kind of guardrails as to how a particular KPI should be interpreted and how the disclosure should be made. GRI nonetheless was taking up this as an attempt right from the very beginning. So we have seen several iterations of GRI since this has been taught at NITIE as part of the curriculum also. So you would have seen GRI G 3.1, GRI G4 from July 18 GRI standards. And now going forward, there are further sector specific changes which have been carried out. So say, for example, for oil and gas sector, the flaring and certain other kind of emissions are required to be disclosed from 2023 onwards. So GRI has evolved. Same is the case with integrated report, wherein we are talking about 6 different capitals. One out of these 6 is the financial capital, and on financial capital, almost each and every company was fairly robust because of the P&L statements which are required to be disclosed in the annual report. On the balance 5 capitals, so whether it is the production capital, whether it is the R&D capital, and so on and so forth, there were different interpretations, and that's where the whole, I would say, discussion around ESG and how, say, for example, regulators have taken up the requirements or how investor community is talking about it. Each and every geography has got a fair amount of understanding that this is how the disclosure requirements are panning out and the actions which are required on ground. If you look at the slide which is in front of you, this typically gives you a flavor of what has happened in last about a decade plus in India. So we have seen multiple actions, including, say, for example, the introduction of a corporate social responsibility as a mandatory requirement. And even within the CSR becoming mandatory, there have been multiple updates which have been carried out in the Section 135 of the Companies Act. The last one was carried out in 2021, wherein the CFOs are now being made responsible to give a compliance to the board that the investments of the money with respect to the requirements of CSR, so the CSR has been carried out. Earlier on, the role, or say, for example, the obligation of a company used to end when the money used to exchange hands. So even on 31st of March of a financial year, which is ending for any organizations, if the money is transferred out to the NGO or the partner which is responsible for implementation of your CSR initiatives, you will still be considered as in compliance. But now if you look at the last year LODR amendments, it doesn't stop at transfer of money. You need to prove that the money has actually been utilized. And in case if there are investments which are of larger order, you also need to carry out impact studies in the form of social returns on investment. So I believe I can suggest one area for students, those who are practically developing their skills around social sector, is to look at SROI or impact studies, because Going forward, it is not just going to be limited to certain companies which are making larger chunk of investments. Even I would say medium sectors or companies which are in the range of somewhere between 200 crores to about 700, 800 crore rupees market cap, whether listed or unlisted, would also be spending a lot of time and energy in terms of getting the SROI studies or impact studies done. So that is a very clear career area that you can look at, whether you be a part of a consulting organization or whether you join a particular industry and typically get consumed as part of the corporate social responsibility team. Though there are certain changes even in the CSR teams which have been carried out because of the larger ESG issues. In some of the companies wherein I have kind of served or worked as part of an external service provider, the CSR teams are getting amalgamated into the larger environment, social and governance teams. And therefore, the opportunity for you would be to get a very good learning, not just from the pure play CSR or the social aspects of the business, but the other two verticals also, which may include the governance and the environmental parts. The second change that was carried out by Government of India through Ministry of Corporate Affairs was the introduction of Business Responsibility Report or BRR. It was originally introduced for top 100 companies, then it was extended to top 500 and then finally to top 1000 companies. Very simply in order to, I would say, bring some kind of regimentation or some kind of creating a nudge in the market so that the qualitative disclosures of non-financial performance under the national voluntary guidelines are being delivered to the not just the shareholders but also to the stakeholders. The bigger idea of Ministry of Corporate Affairs was that with this particular introduction of BRR, companies will move into the larger disclosure frameworks and will start using GRI, IIRC, etc. as their channels for public disclosures in not just the qualitative manner but also on the quantified manner with certain degree of objectivity built in. Around 2017, if you are following the market or maybe as part of your curriculum, you would have read about the notification that was being issued by SEBI for voluntary adoption of integrated reports. I believe this was the last attempt that was made by SEBI or any of the regulators in India to bring in discipline into the corporate disclosures around non-financial reporting. But somehow very limited success was there in terms of companies transitioning from GRI to IIRC or straight away beginning their journey with the integrated report as a disclosure channel for non-financial reporting. And therefore, a high-power committee was established in 2018, and during the COVID lockdown in August 2020, we had the draft BRSR, Business Responsibility and Sustainability Report, that was being introduced for stakeholder consultation. And now in the current year, so the last year was the year of voluntary disclosure of BRSR in public domain. But from this year, the year which has started from 1st of April 2022, BRSR has been made mandatory for disclosure for top 1000 listed companies. So typically, if we look at the market, the 1000th company would be somewhere around market capitalization of about 900 crores. So a larger gamut of investments in the stock markets are getting covered through these companies, and therefore even the retail investors, because institutional investors, as we all know, has a larger muscle power. They also get a better insight about companies to stay invested or to dilute their positions. But when it comes to the retail investors like us, those who are buying few shares in a particular company, we are only relying on the quarter-on-quarter disclosures that have been made and the annual report of the company. We had very limited understanding or information around the non-financial aspects of the business. And therefore, with the introduction of BRSR, we believe that a lot of stakeholders as well as shareholders will get benefited out of it and will take a judicious decision to stay invested with a particular organization and decide upon the future course of action of their, so to say, strategies of investment as well as certain other aspects of say, for example, related to divestments and consolidation based upon such kind of inputs. If you look at the BRSR, I believe that's another area wherein, if not more, you will find companies creating some kind of pockets for in-house expertise, because this is not a one-time exercise that is required to be carried out. This is an exercise which is going to get repeated annually. And it is not just limited to disclosures. There is a very clear, so to say, eye or an understanding that has been put across before the BRSR was released in public domain, is that the companies, these top 1000 companies, will actually become the change makers, or will introduce certain kind of change in the behavior of the companies, those who are both in the upstream and downstream of their business, because of the regulations and because of the improvement expectations around BRSR. And that's where I believe that if you are looking at a career within corporates, you will straight away find a lot of opportunities, at least in next 2 to 3 years, both within corporate ecosystem as well as within the consulting world. So whether it is big four or the boutique firms or even the other big three in terms of McKinsey's, A.T. Kearney and so on and so forth, you will get a fair amount of opportunity to work both as external consultants or in-house experts for organizations. The suggestion that I would like to make here to students, those who are participating in this particular gathering, is that BRSR has been bifurcated into 2 parts. So typically almost 90 indicators are mandatory, and the balanced set of indicators are leadership indicators, which you might have also talked about, or which might have got covered as part of your curriculum. My suggestion to you would be that look at the areas wherein the leadership indicators are practically able to capture the essence of the deeper understanding around the 3 verticals, that is environment, social, and governance, because these are the areas wherein we will see companies building their eminence or acquiring a pole position over a period of time. And therefore, wherever the expertise are required, it will be more of an expertise that will be called out against the leadership indicators and less on the regular rut of the mandatory indicators. The second important change that has been introduced through BRSR is that it is not just required to be appended in the annual report of the organization. Very similar to how companies file their income tax return, the BRSR elements are also required to be uploaded on Ministry of Corporate Affairs website in XBRL format. So those who have a knack for digital environment and those who are practically looking at a possibility of making use of their IT skill sets, which they might have acquired as part of their bachelor's journey, they can also look at this particular space to go deeper into the digitization of data. So whether it is BRSR, which is coming from the regulatory ask, whether it is the in general practice, which is getting adopted by most of the large players, those who are collecting data from multiple facilities or factories that they have not just within India, but from overseas locations. We are also putting a lot of effort in developing a digital ecosystem around the capture of data. Multiple players have got into this space. I heard few names from the previous speakers also, but just to give you a little bit of flavor, SAP has introduced SAP Impact. So if you would have seen, companies are transitioning from SAP to S4 HANA. That is something which is coming as part of their financial transition. On the ESG side of their business, they are practically making a lot of investments in getting the SAP Impact as a platform for themselves, which is getting appended as a subroutine into the principal S4 HANA transition that has been done. In addition to this, there are multiple other platforms. I will give you some of the names like vSustain, Goodera, Workiva. These are some of the platforms, Gabi, which are responsible for collation of data for almost every aspect of disclosure, including some of the requirements of the ranking and rating agencies like Sustainalytics or Morgan Stanley, Capital International, and so on and so forth. In terms of LCA, life cycle assessment, which is also being required as part of the disclosures under BRSR, I heard Manoj ji talking about one of the platforms, which is Pera. You can also look at multiple other service providers in this space, those who are offering such services for life cycle assessment. The SEMA Pro is another player in the market which is working in this space. Gabi is doing or working on both sides, both onto the data qualifiers digitization for normal disclosures and also into the life cycle assessment. So you can also look at the opportunities for yourself into the companies, those who are providing all these services, whether it is digitization of data or whether it is the life cycle assessment. Let's just flip through a few slides. I've just kept it for giving you a flavor. Yeah. So sustainability disclosures are something which are happening for quite some time. If you look at Japan, almost I would say 70% or maybe even more. I don't have the recent update, but till Feb 2022, almost 70% of the Japanese companies were actually disclosing on integrated report. Sustainability report is something that we have been witnessing even in India. If you would have seen companies like ITC and their annual general reports, as well as the speech of the MD right from the time I remember when Mr. YC Deveshwar took over from Mr. KL Chugh, so almost a decade and a half back onwards. 80% of the text of AGM used to revolve around sustainability. So sustainability in general is something which was introduced or which was being adopted by companies as part of their disclosures. I'm not sure about students here, but I believe the speakers, those who are in 40 plus like me, we used to hear advertisement of Tata Steel during our childhood. And the whole advertisement of Tata Steel used to revolve around social aspects of their business. And only the last line of the advertisement used to be, we also make steel. So the social aspects of businesses were also being very clearly endorsed as part of the business exercises. So this is not something new, but what ESG has done is something which I have tried to present through this particular slide, which is visible to you. So materiality assessment is something that was being carried out even in the erstwhile sustainability reports. The vision statement of companies covering some aspects of the society and the environmental footprint was very much there earlier also. The strategy, though it may not have been qualified as ESG strategy, but in some form or the other, strategies were also carrying a bit of how you are going to make it sustainable going forward. But what you are seeing here as the uncolored or say something which is in black and white is what ESG has introduced. So if I have to put it across to you in a very simple term, you can qualify ESG as the new quality standard. And the moment you talk about something in the form of quality standard, you can yourself visualize that then there is no end to it. It is always a race between competitive environments. So say, for example, you are peer to 10 other companies in the same business. You would very much want to have that one-upmanship. And beyond the financial performance, the non-financial performance under environment, social, and governance verticals is also giving you this opportunity to shift gears and build eminence. The way, say, for example, we heard from the speakers from Welspun as well as from JSW very clearly that they have taken decisions around usage of organic cotton, reducing their dependence upon, say, for example, grid-based energy and shifting to renewable energy, whether it is in-house solar power generation, whether it is electricity purchased under open access, or whether it is group captive initiatives that few companies do take in order to get access to the renewable sources of energy. Zero liquid discharge has become another area for most of the companies to carry out their interventions. And why it is so? Because if you look at India per se, we have not more than, there are multiple calculations, but even if we go by any of those calculations, almost 80-85% of the total fresh water which is available in India is currently getting utilized within the agriculture sector. About 4% is getting utilized in the residential sector. So the industry or the commercial usage gets about 10 to 11% of the total available freshwater resources. And therefore, there is bound to be a competing use of water. And that's why it is important for businesses to understand the real cost of water. So it should not be believed that I am getting a million liter of water at, say, for example, a throwaway price of X rupees. Is it actually the true price of water? The way, say, for example, if you are burning coal in your organization as part of any of the manufacturing business, do you pay for oxygen? The answer is no. But if I stop the supply of oxygen, can you actually burn that coal or naphtha or natural gas or anything else to carry out with your production? So the clear understanding should be built around what is the real cost of the input materials, which are practically being given out to us as an organization from nature, should be understood. And secondly, thorough calibrated efforts should be carried out or made in order to reduce dependence, or at least to a greater extent optimize the consumption of all those natural resources. So ESG is providing you with all those play areas in between, and that is what is something that is being talked about as part of this whole journey, and multiple players will get involved in this. Say, for example, if you look at the insurance sector, now insurance sector as a matter of fact is not just collecting the premium for you from you as a consumer for providing insurance services. They are investing this premium into the market and are taking equity, quasi equity and debt positions. So the moment you take equity position or quasi equity position in a company, you are also getting not just the dividend from the equity, but you are also liable to record the financed emissions. And that is where I see a very clear role for new generation employees, entrepreneurs, in whichever form or shape is, that you will have to look at the possible opportunities in the finance sector also. And finance sector is another area wherein a large number of employment opportunities are being generated currently. And this is exactly coming from the space of financed emissions. So if you want to read more about it, you can take a note of GHG protocol, chapter 15. You will get a clear understanding of how financed emissions are being treated. Similarly, every insurance company goes in for underwriting. Nobody will have the wherewith to say, for example, provide an insurance to Indigo or to Air India or to Vistara. So they do work in tandem with multiple other insurance companies as well as with the underwriters. And these underwriters are taking or kind of changing their positions in the market with respect to the inherent environment or social risk on a particular business. So it is important for companies also to look at their non-financial performance, but also the associated businesses. So whether it is the insurance provider or whether it is the underwriter to a particular insurance company, they are also taking stand on whether they would like to continue with a unsustainable or non-environmentally benign business on longer term basis, or whether they would wind up their exposure in these companies and do a transition to businesses which are much more sustainable in the times to come. So all these things are becoming part and parcel, and therefore, as part of the business growth, it is important that the environment, social and governance should dovetail with the financial performance of the company, and that is what the aspiration is. I believe in next 5 to 7 years, when most of the companies will transition out into integrated reports, and we get to see a very regimented behavior of companies going forward, we will see a very clear amalgamation of all these four verticals. So finance and ESG, they will get merged into one single disclosure requirements. And you will see the companies being evaluated not just by the stock exchanges, but also by the investor community in general, those who are larger institutional investors, based upon the combined performance of the organization. I believe I have already overshot the time, so we can stop here. The industry-wide inputs you are getting from multiple other colleagues, those who are here on the panel. But I thought of giving you a little bit of flavor on the areas which the consulting ecosystem is currently working on. Maybe in last 30 seconds before I stop, I can tell you that the opportunities would be in audit and assurance. So if you have a knack for review, if you are able to find out errors, jitters, outliers, then audit and assurance is one vertical in which you can focus your energies. If you are more of a strategy guy who can derive a long-term vision for a company, then that's one space within ESG wherein you can work with not just the investors, but also with companies, wherein you can provide them guidance, not on the consolidation part, but also on the divestment part. Pure play disclosure. So if you understand sustainability, if you understand environment, social and governance, and you are good at developing disclosure statements, then that's another space. And then the last one is more on the ranking and rating. Just to give you one more slide before I wind up, is that this is the third elephant in the room now. Each and every listed companies are practically looking after well in terms of their understanding around credit ratings. They are also fairly clear about how the proxy advisors or the agencies, those who guide the shareholders on how to vote during the AGMs, so they are aware of that. The third elephant in the room is the ESG ranking and rating, and that's where companies are putting in a lot of focus in terms of how the disclosures are being made, how these disclosures are being interpreted, and how the ratings are being devised. As I believe one of the speakers in past talked about that there are different algorithms. The answer is the interpretation is absolutely correct because the data is practically scattered around all over the internet and also in other forms of media representation. And therefore, the ranking and rating agencies practically work with algorithms, and these algorithms are tuned up to pick up certain keywords from the disclosure. So say, for example, in current day and age, several organizations do not have employee unions. So if you do not have employee unions, how will you make a representation? So if you bring in a sentence into your sustainability disclosures, that as an organization, we appreciate and value the collective bargaining power of our employees, and you stop it there, you have provided the right kind of input to the algorithms which are looking at picking up your understanding around employee unions, and you will get a fair amount of rating against that particular KPI. So this is where I believe the consulting experience work better than the in-house expertise for various reasons. One of that could be that we are serving multiple clients, and each and every client is not a, I would say, one side story wherein we are providing them with inputs. With each and every engagement that we work on, it's more of a input which comes from either side. The industry insights are available within the organization, whereas the consulting insights are available with the consulting firms like us. So it is a learning experience on each and every assignment that we do. And we carry this learning experience to new organizations wherever we are getting an opportunity to work with them. And that helps us to build a different level of understanding, at least around the storytelling part of public disclosures, if not more. So I would not claim my right on the technical part of it. For that, there are companies like Honeywell, Johnson Control, or the EPC contractors, those who know the businesses inside out, those who can provide the right kind of solutions for decarbonization. But when it comes to the management understanding around how the disclosures are to be made, how the calculations will be carried out, how the interpretation the ranking and rating agencies will do on a particular disclosure is something that we are capable of handling better than the companies directly. So I'll just stop here, and if there are any questions, happy
thank
to
you
take.
so much, Mr. Inderjeet. We will take the question answer session at the end, and the questions which are marked to you, we will send by email to you, so that you know. Yeah. So thank you so much for that very comprehensive, presentation of yours. It was very nice. I would now hand it over to Shubham.
Thank you, Inderjeet sir, for bringing in the views from consulting point of view. With the help of case studies like Volkswagen, you also explain the timeline of various events that led to the ESG to what it is today. Some of the important topics covered by you are various reporting standards like GRI, BRSR, and IR, and how regulators in various geographies are interested in them. You also suggested SROI and impact studies areas for the students who are expecting to join the consulting careers. It was very enriching session from you. Thank you very much. Without wasting further time, I would like to call our next speaker. He is our own alumni. Prashant Tiwari sir leads the sustainability vertical at Amara Raja Group. He is a chemical engineer with post-graduation in sustainability from NITIE. Before Amara Raja, Prashant sir was working at Chief HSE and Sustainability at Hindustan Zinc Limited, subsidiary of Vedanta. He has also implemented sustainability asset optimization and quality assurance protocol during his tenure at Vedanta. His experience in sustainability spans from metal and mining at Vedanta to FMCG at HUL and Coca-Cola to automobile industry at Tata Motors. He has been involved in various sustainability initiatives ranging from ESG rating to sustainability reporting, life cycle assessment, behavioral-based study implementation, and organizational capability building on sustainability and HSE. It's great to have you here, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Shubham, for such elaborate introduction. And Professor Singh, it feels so nice to see you again. I mean, nothing beats the feeling of coming back to where you all started from. So what I'm going to do a little differently, I mean, we'll talk about our performance. The process would be similar to what earlier speakers have spoken about. So if you allow me to share my screen.
Yes, please. Please go ahead.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, very clear.
Okay. So I work for
Let's
Amara
go to
Raja.
slideshow, Prashant. Slideshow.
Okay. Is it like you are seeing it in half screen?
Yeah, exactly. I can see the side panel also.
Now is it better?
Yeah. Maybe you can just press F5 to go to complete presentation mode.
Can you see it now on the full screen?
I think it's clear. You can continue.
Okay. Okay, so coming to Amara Raja, this is what we are. I mean, it was some 35 years back when Dr. Ramchandra Galla, who is our founder chairman, came back from US with the intent of doing something good for the society and for the environment he came from. And that is when he established the first manufacturing unit in Chittoor. And you can see the gentleman on the left side, the tall gentleman is Dr. Ramchandra Galla. And this vision, this core purpose has remained true even today. Like I remember Dr. Shirish Sangle visiting our facility and talking about the purpose of an organization. And he said the core purpose is to solve environmental or societal issue and profit is an outcome. And Amara Raja is an excellent example of that. So you see our core purpose defines increasing our sphere of influence, improving the quality of life, providing better opportunities to more people all the time. Now, what I'm going to quickly do is introducing this organization. So from an humble beginning, today we are Amara Raja Group is consisting of 7 companies. We have a turnover of more than 1.5 billion US dollars, more than 16,000 employees, and 90% of them are first generation employees. And if you look at the overall group structure, Amara Raja Batteries is the flagship company, and we have presence in close to 35 countries. And overall presence, I mean, when you think about other things like infrastructure, we have certain brands which you might be aware of, like Amaron, PowerZone, Quantas, and ARBL. And we provide our products and services to automobile, industrial, telecom, railways, as well as renewable energy. And beyond battery business, we have infrastructure business, which specializes in executing the EPC projects. It covers residential, industrial, and common infrastructure. And some of the projects executed by infra team are IIT Tirupati, BITS Pilani, and we are working with ISRO. The other one is power systems, which are into manufacturing of industrial chargers, HT and LT panels, SMPS, IPS. They're also setting up substations as well as battery formation equipments for battery business. And MIL, so if you look at Amara Raja, it's a very tightly backward integrated organization. So initially, Mangal Industries was meant to support the battery business, but today it caters to diverse markets and applications. There are 6 SBUs ranging from auto component, storage solution, battery component, custom fabrication to tool work. We also have an interesting business, which is Galla Foods, started as a CSR initiative to promote sustainable farming, bring together farmers and supply chain. Today, we have products in 45 countries under our own brand as Galla Foods. We also do co-packing for Coca-Cola and CCD. Now, moving on. These are some of what I have done is I have tried to put together some of the performance when we talk about ESG, and under energy and carbon, we have 20 megawatt of rooftop solar in our manufacturing location. We are targeting 50 megawatt in next 2 years. This would take our renewable energy share to 25%. We are also setting up India's first green hydrogen fueling station in Leh. This is infra division project. Infra has also installed, or they've been a part of installation of 200 megawatts of installed renewable, and another 500 megawatts is in pipeline. Our power system is providing solutions for renewable energy, things like EV chargers, lithium-ion packs for e-mobility. We're also investing into a lot of new energy startups in India and abroad in lithium-ion and new energy. And we have developed India's first 21700 cylindrical cell and first company to achieve IATF certification. When we think about circular economy, so we consume a lot of lead in our battery manufacturing. And if you think about lead, it is one of the most recycled and recyclable material known to the mankind. So 70% of our overall raw material and 75% of the lead which we consume in our manufacturing process, it comes from the recycled sources. And apart from that, when we talk about circularity, there are product innovations to increase the life of the product, reduce the weight, improve the corrosion resistance and product safety. We are also trying to raise the bar and putting up a greenfield lead cycling capacity with capacity of 1 lakh tons. Our operations ARBL are water positive, so we give back to the nature more than what we consume. And we have also established 23 check dams and restoration of 6 ponds, that is outside the premises. We have world-class UTPs, ZLDs, and we recycle 100% of the water or wastewater which we generate. And communities is something which we are really proud of. So the kind of work which has happened in Amara Raja, I spoke about 16,000 plus employees promoting sustainable agriculture and bringing the farmers together. We have a unique concept like skill development center. The unique thing about the skill development center is the people who join this skill development center, they are 10th dropouts, and they are actually supplying the manforce. I mean, these 100% deployment happens in Amara Raja batteries. We have 3 schools supporting 4,500 plus students, and we have given a scholarship of more than 3 CR so far. We're also doing a lot of work on village infra, so I can keep talking about it, but some of them are like rice mills, reverse osmosis units, health centers, banks, roads. And we have an electronic division where we employ 60% of women from the neighboring villages. And there is some work which has happened on social forestry as well. So of course, the existing manufacturing facility complied to the requirement of 33 or 40% of the greenfield. But beyond that, we have started adopting some of the barren hillocks and trying to convert into a lush green forest. So next slide, I will let the pictures do the talking. What you can see, EV chargers, lithium-ion batteries. This is our R&D facility in Chittoor. We are setting up a hydrogen green fueling plant. I spoke about that. And a picture of BITS Pilani Hyderabad campus. Beyond that, IIT Tirupati and ISRO also we are working. And this is what you see, rooftop solar at ARBL, primary health center.
Your slide is not moving. We are still on the sustainability excellence, that slide. We have, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, now we are able to see. Yes. 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 Yes.
So here are some pictures of what I spoke about in my previous slide. I will not spend too much time explaining through it because we have already covered it. Now, beyond this, I want to have a conversation with our students and maybe try to express my thoughts, my perspectives of how the ESG looks like, the trends, things which are going to probably become important for us. And when I think of certain things, renewable energy is one area where we know that Prime Minister Modi has talked about COP26 commitments. And as a country, we want to be 500 gigawatt and half of the energy coming from renewable sources. And when I speak to a lot of people, there is some skepticism around this. If you ask me, I'm quite bullish about us achieving the target. And look at what we have achieved in last few years. Today, India is sitting at 175 gigawatt of renewable energy. Solar is already cheaper than fossil fuels. And 175 gigawatt is 70-80% of the targets we set up for ourselves. And this has happened in spite of COVID and all. So this renewable energy revolution is going to open up a lot of green jobs. It is also going to reduce our import bills, lead to energy security and attract FDIs. And while this trend will pick up, I want you to be more careful about certain things like over dependence on solar as a technology. We have a lot of manufacturing capability within the country on wind, but somehow we have lost the wind there. I mean, if you look at last 5-6 years, the growth in wind has been in single digits. And the second is our over dependence on few countries, like 80% of solar panels come from China. And that's also something which we need to be careful about. I mean, moving from one geopolitical dependence from Middle East to another is something which we need to look at. We should also not close our eyes to options like nuclear energy. And what also this renewable energy puts in us, we would require 10 to 12 gigawatt factories, each of 10 gigawatt capacity each. The second important trend which I'm picking up is around the mobility and energy storage. In fact, Amara Raja has rebranded us as energy and mobility company. And if we talk about EV adoption, it is a process which is irreversible. The question is not about whether, but a question is about when it will happen. And anybody who has sat behind a wheel on an electrical vehicle has fallen in love with it. I mean, they would not want to go back to the IC engines, so consumers are going to demand it. And I see a lot of opportunities here. The new age entrepreneurs. I know a gentleman who is a chartered accountant doing very well in his career, and he left his job and created a startup. And this startup makes EV chargers, and they reach out to existing and new builders to make provision for the same in the residential complexes. Now, these are some of the examples of our next Hathawases and FiberNet. As we know, EV demand is likely to grow by 14 folds globally by 2030. And today, although there are certain challenges, the technology is still evolving. We have lithium, and within lithium, we have a lot of chemistries. There is lithium phosphate, lithium ion, then you have sodium ions, a lot of new chemistries and form factors, whether prism, whether it is cylindrical or pouch. So there is something which is still evolving. But the way I look at it is after 7-8 years, a lot of these EV batteries are going to come for recycling. And if you look at today's recycling capacity is actually 5% of the current production installed capacity. So I see a lot of startups in this space. In fact, 2 days back while I was in CII, and I was delighted to see so many people showing interest in lithium ion battery recycling. Green hydrogen is another important area. And yesterday we saw Mr. Gadkari travel in a hydrogen powered car. Also, we need to stay open to new business models. I mean, nobody has, I mean, if there was a, let's say, Nobel Prize for sustainability, maybe Google Map or Ubers of the world would contest for it. Think of Google Map, the millions of wasted miles of fuel, or Uber for bringing efficiencies in transportation and keeping the vehicles off-road. And I remember while Dr. Sirish was here in Tirupati with us, he gave an example that 2 ton of vehicle carrying a person for of 70 kg and in process releasing gases from the tailpipe. And I in fact further it, 90% of these vehicles are unutilized for 90% of the times. So it's a colossal wastage of resources. I will share an example of what Amara Raja is doing on it. We are looking at swappable battery option. Why buy when you can rent a battery, or why charge when you can swap? So we are doing this experiment at Tirupati and Lucknow. And I'm just opening this, I'm giving you thoughts that what all as a new age entrepreneurs you can look at. I'm sure the concerns regarding the range will go away. However, it would require a lot of concerted efforts on standardization. Third thing which I would want to talk about is compliance. And most organizations, we talk about beyond compliance. The fact of the matter is compliance itself today is an epitome of sustainability. We saw a lot of things have changed in last 5 years. We are talking about an energy conservation bill, which is going to mandate renewable energy for manufacturing. The PAT scheme, which is perform achievement rate, defines how much as an organization you can consume per unit of finished good. We had water policies and CGWA guidelines. So although it's nice to talk about being water positive, but the fact of the matter is today we will not get a permission to withdraw groundwater. And 70% of the India suffers from water scarcity. It has become a mandate to be water positive. Other things like ZLDs, I can think about EPR, so circularity, circular economy is already becoming a part of regulations. We have extended producer responsibility for batteries, plastics, e-waste, and what is being expected from producers is to own up the entire value chain. CSR is mandated, and stronger government also means more expectations and seriousness around implementation. And this is not a phenomena which is limited to India. It's becoming a global phenomena. I mean, I was reading some time back, EU coming up with a law on right to repair. And we just saw that EU has mandated Apple to include Type-C chargers. So to the people who are getting into sustainability domain, keep this in mind. Being compliant is also a challenge, and there is a lot we can do to push sustainability agenda if only we follow the law of land. Another thing which I would quickly talk about is about the product design. And if you remember in 1980s, we had a principle about Taguchi. We used to say design for robustness or design for reliability. And then for last few years, what we are seeing is design obsolescence, right? Since 2000, the prices of raw materials are going up. We don't have much left, and the cost of inaction is much higher. And I'm not showing you any graphs because as sustainability professionals, you're already aware of this. There are hard facts, hard data supporting this. And it's time a lot of people get involved in designing products for sustainability. Products that last longer, they take lesser energy during usage and lesser water, produces no waste. And when I talk about Amara Raja, we have been constantly innovating to come out with batteries which last longer, which have better corrosion resistant, and you can have a second purpose. So after something like a lithium battery, after 7 years, it has lost let's say it is at 70% of its original capacity. It can probably be used as a home inverter. So look at the products, how they can be utilized for secondary purpose, and how do we make it fully recyclable. Another thing, I think Inderjeet talked about it, the BRSR by SEBI, and the way we are looking at, and in fact, a lot of organizations, it's going to be a game changer. The organizations have been doing sustainability reporting, and some of those organizations, I have friends, and they are actually now re-looking at their numbers. Nobody wants to overcommit and under-deliver. So the way I see this thing panning out, it's going to bring all of us at the same playing ground. It will improve transparency. Today, there might be slight fear, but tomorrow these organizations will start innovating and start competing against each other. There is a lot of scope for capability building here, and that is another area where I would request some of our sustainability professionals to look at. How do we integrate sustainability into decision making? How do we make it a part of finance function, commercial function, procurement, the manufacturing, rather than keeping sustainability as an isolated one? And the last is ESG rating. Now goes without saying, companies that perform well on ESG, or rather non-financial KPIs, have performed better than its peer on financial KPIs. And people invest in good performers. And ratings are here to stay. But the way I look at it, it's going to see some transformation. The smart investor of today would probably require more in-depth info on some of the material indicators which they value. We talked about better analysis, data science, algorithm, use of machine learning and blockchain to differentiate between the real performance and greenwashing. So these are some of the thoughts I wanted to share with the new set of ESG professionals which are going to come to the industry. And thanks once again for inviting me here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prashant. As always, I take a lot of pride when our students do so well. You're all also our brand ambassadors, and I'm very happy that your company is getting into green hydrogen refueling stations. That is like the need of the hour, in tune with our green hydrogen policy. Excellent presentation, Prashant. Over to you, Shubham.
Thank you, Prashant sir, for a very enriching session and bringing perspectives from a range of different businesses that Amara Raja is currently operating in. You covered energy and carbon initiatives from RE to green hydrogen, circular economy initiatives in battery manufacturing, social initiatives for empowerment of local communities. You also mentioned about PAT schemes, CGWA guidelines, EPRs, and BRSR, among various other topics. It was a great session to hear from you. It definitely benefited our students. Now I would like to call our next speaker. Mithilesh Kumar is the lead associate director at Accenture and has an overall work experience of 15 plus years. He is currently leading the chemicals and natural resources industry practice as a part of Accenture's advanced technology centers in Gurgaon, India. He had earlier worked in Larsen & Toubro, Mumbai as senior design engineer, and post his MBA been with Accenture working in multiple areas such as digital transformation, CXO advisory, technology lead process transformation. He also holds an MBA with a focus on marketing and operations. We are glad to have you here, sir. Over to you. Sir, you are not audible.
Yeah, warm welcome to you, Mithilesh.
Thank you, Professor Sivam. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Being the last speaker on the day, I think I am the last speaker.
We have one more after you.
Okay. It makes my job.
Yeah, two more after you.
Okay. So pretty much towards the fag end, being the fag end, it really benefits because you already have gathered a lot of insights and you can keep building on that. We used to do even when we were students in big school campuses. So I will perhaps, capitalize on that. But before that, let me introduce, a few things about the organization I represent. I'm talking about a company which is almost equal to the size of Deloitte. Mr. Inderjeet talked about that. I'm also talking about a company which in 6 months will become net zero. In 6 months, net zero. I'm talking about a company which has already achieved 100% renewable energy based energy consumption. I'm talking about a company which has already achieved 50-50 in terms of diversity in India operations. I'm talking about a company which is chaired by a woman who is in Forbes list of top 40 strong, powerful women. I'm also talking about a company and the group which is led by women, and I report to a woman chair, right? So yes, I'm representing Accenture. So I'm very proud to represent my company here. 12th year into Accenture. I am a mechanical engineer, and I did spend a lot of time in industry before walking into Accenture, which is more of a end-to-end services company, right? As you see. And in the next, I think, 10 minutes or so, I will just touch upon some of the elements when I reflect, because I do work very closely with our global clients. My outlook, some of the messages I will pass on today will not be only limited to India, but also to globally as to how I see our clients operating, especially reflecting on what we see in the chemical space, in the metals and mining space, and also manufacturing space. All right. With that, if you all are okay, I'll start sharing my screen and just walk you through some of the key things I have.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sure. Sure. Let me know if you can see my screen. I started sharing.
Yes, we are able to see it clearly.
Yeah. So this is a study which is done by Accenture. A lot of consulting organizations and advisory organizations have been doing study across industries, very focusing on industry. What I will request you all who are reading this particular page, um, just for one moment, ignore the word chemical on this page. All right. Just think of largely any company which is manufacturing focused, whose job is to produce something, and you will start creating a meaning out of it, right? And why is it that, suddenly the ESG or sustainability has become very important? It has become important because of two key pressures. One pressure is coming straight away from the boardroom because now, and we often say that sustainability is the new digital. I remember in 2014-15, when Accenture came out with digital as a platform, a lot of consulting organizations came out, right? It's pretty much thinking we had. And I thought, hey, you know what, 4 year into this space of consulting, that is really the inflection point. And I feel the same in 2021, 2022, that sustainability is the new digital, new inflection point. And it has got a real meaning, right? Because even if you go for an extension of your capacity, whether it is in India, legislations will regulate that, even overseas. We see a lot of our clients are talking about the banks, interestingly, are attaching a lot of premium to how will you operate? What is the perception you have? What is the risk rating you have? How will you ensure that you are creating social capital? Because somebody talked about data steel example. That's a great example, right? And that's something which is very important, which is driven straight through your stakeholders, which are shareholders these days. And there is a study which is done by us, that companies which have done well on the ESG side, their stock prices have outperformed the peers. And my suggestion to all the students and the budding managers would be, just take a look at any industry of your choice where you would like to make your career. Carefully see their IR disclosures. IR disclosures from 90 to 2019, 2020, people have started making that more frequent. And you will start finding a pattern. Companies which have done well, the gap between top performers and the average baseline companies will continue to be a formidable gap. And you will also see a pattern that their stock prices have been on the higher side because they tend to do well on ESG. Now, of course, we can say whether it is a causal effect or not. That's open to debate. But that's a key thing which is driven by stakeholders. The second thing is, which is also driven by consumers, right? I'm a proud father of two daughters, and off late, when I go to take my kid along, and even if I take, any toy for my kid, for example, I always look for, of course, in addition to made in, where it is manufactured, which gives me a sense about how it would be manufactured, but also whether it is BPA free, right? Many a times you see kids have the habit, my 11-month-old has the habit of, taking things inside her mouth, right? So I'm very kind of, cautious whether the not only the toys but the things which are surrounding her, whether they are risk free. Even on the food choices, many times you will see people seeing the level, whether it's a gluten free, whether it is BPA free, whether there is any probiotic which is bad for me, right? So the consumers are also driving this trend, right? This is not only chemical for, I mean, which is not only true for chemicals but all the industries, right? So you yourself, each one of you on the call, and the entire society is also driving it, right? And I stay in a locality in Delhi where for the last 8 months I have not seen a plastic bag, right? So that's an activism, of course, which is driven by the MCD here in Delhi. At the same time, people are also supporting it, right? So with these two key trends, we see this impact on ESG. And what it means is companies have to, and somebody talked about cement manufacturing, right? Intrinsically, cement is 6 to 7% GHG contributor. Same way, chemical manufacturing, if you see, they pretty much contribute 5 to 6% of total global emission. Now, if chemical companies stop manufacturing, I will not be wearing my shirt, which is having a certain amount of Leica. You will not be having your chair, which is having certain amount of plastic, and you will not be driving your car because it will require some bit of polycarbonate, right? So the idea is, look, it's a balance between the existence of these industries and rethinking their whole value chain, right? How do they really rethink their operations, right? Let me tell you, what does this really mean? If you really think of a company, right, think of this as a typical value chain of any manufacturing company, right? As I said, ignore the word chemical for now. We are talking about raw materials, right? And it's very sustainable. I mean, it has been, very sustainable for us to think that, look, if you are making manufacture, I mean, if you are manufacturing chemicals, for example, all it will need is naphtha, right? Feedstock. And now the discourse is about whether gas can be a substitute, right? Because you're saying, okay, can this be a case wherein we are converting gas to liquid, which becomes my input, right? People are also talking about coal is a bad industry. Previous night in Turkey, 28 people died in a coal mine blast. So how can we shift coal by using coal to convert it to liquid, which is like liquefied chemicals, right? So coal to chemicals is something which is fast picking up. You can't really shut down your coal mines, but idea is to be intelligent about it. So one is about how do you really reorient the choice of your raw materials and start thinking about raw materials which are either coming from sustainable sources and also raw materials which will require less conversion cost, which will give you less waste, right? That's about the first part of this entire value chain on this screen. The second thing is also about supplier, right? We saw it with COVID, right? A lot of companies across the globe, supply chains were broken, right? Globally, supply chains were broken, and companies, the first attention I think companies have done, especially companies which were distribution and consumer focused, they started really reassessing their supplier network for risk, right? And as an outcome, a lot of companies were successful in mapping their suppliers for their risk, right? And what used to also happen was brands were establishing more in-person, omni-channel connect with their customers. Retailers were getting more demanding, and yes, the digital boom came. With the digital boom, the digital literacy, the awareness also increased from the consumer side, right? One is about consumers really demanding for sustainable products. At the same time, because you really push the digital channels of communication, consumers have found that, and they have now come to terms with saying, okay, this is the de facto way in which a brand will communicate to me. So it's not about a Volkswagen selling their car, but they will talk about their safety features. They will talk about how is it that they are sourcing the rubber, which is coming from a sustainable, kind of plantation. How is it that they are, using copper in their car, in the electrical circuitry, which is coming from a mine somewhere in Chile, which is not involving any child labor, right? So that's the kind of consideration we see in this industry, right? Now, moving forward, and this would be my last speech perhaps on this topic. Just to summarize, as I said, right, the consumers are the king. They continue to be the kings and queens because they are now demanding more eco-friendly products. And now because the social media has become very strong, any debate will really impact positively or negatively about how you stand as a brand, and there is a potential for you to also get involved in a lot of legal and kind of ethical debates. And the third is about how do companies start thinking about alternatives, right? I think a speaker from JSW talked about it, and one message to all of you would be, it's not about competition. This era is not about competition. This era is about partnership. And I think Mr. Inderjeet from Deloitte was talking about a lot of companies like Simapro, Gavi are really coming out with, they are end-to-end and dedicatedly data provider companies, right? These companies, if they continue to stand on their own, it will not really help the society. The idea is, how can we as consulting advisory partners come together with these companies, go to the manufacturers and tell them this is how perhaps you can now start measuring your ESG performance, right? And in the whole thing, how do we really start creating those discussions, start creating that awareness, right? And one example is one of the, almost the finalized stages of the white paper we are jointly writing with Professor Seema and her team is about how do we even make our C-suite, which is the CXOs and the business managers, aware about the urgency of the whole thing, right? So my idea is this is not about competition again, guys. It's about partnership. And there are some public examples, right? I did hear people talking about everyone is worried about scope 1, scope 2. Now, if you really think of scope 1, scope 2, largely, if I take a typical chemical manufacturing company, scope 1 and scope 2 pretty much is just 1/3 of your emission. The beast is really scope 3, which is like 67% of your emission, right? And this is where you can't really solve it alone. You need to solve this with your 3PL, 4PL partners. You need to solve this for your converters. You need to solve this with your customers and also your consumers, right? And there are great examples, right? Tata Steel, everyone keeps talking. They have partnered with BHP, which is an iron ore mining company. And the deal is about how can BHP provide a well-sized iron ore pellet and give them technology in which they will need less energy to really convert the iron ore pellets into steel. And in the whole purpose, Tata Steel consumes less energy. BHP gets to say that, look, in our scope 3, we have derived some efficiency. It's a win-win, right? So I think that's the discourse, I thought I will leave you all with. And my last suggestion to all the students who are listening to this conversation is about, please do read. This is not like, two-factor theory you will be taught in your industrial engineering course, because this is a new topic, right? And people have different interpretations. I think you will become better when you keep reading about some of these, keep understanding some of these protocols, because I can bet you in 1 year time from now, 2 year time from now, when you start feeling the heat, then you will start really rethinking, okay, SASB, I did study materiality. CDP, I did study a certain protocol, right? So I would only advise you that take extra interest and read up about this topic. That's the only way to get better at this very intriguing topic. Now, on that note, I want to really take a pause and give it back to the organizers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Mithilesh. As usual, your presentation is excellent. And I really like the way you introduced Accenture, because diversity and inclusion is so much a part of ESG. And you brought out that wonderful thing that 50% of your workforce consists of ladies. As a lady, I'm very happy to hear it. Over to you, Shubham.
Thank you, Mithilesh, sir, for a very informative session. You started with achievements of Accenture in terms of gender diversity, carbon neutrality, and other important factors. You brought a different perspective on sustainability through the lens of digitization and product value chain. You also highlighted how ESG can help companies and their clients, uh, among many other things, how consulting and advisory companies help their clients. And we'll definitely remember your suggestion to keep reading. I would
Thank
like
you.
to introduce our next speaker, Rahul Nene, sir. He is head of sustainability at Huhtamaki. He is an alumnus of NITIE and has great experience in ESG practices and reporting. He has also served as an EHS head at ACT FiberNet, developing the company's ESG frameworks and sustainability roadmap. He has worked for L'Oreal for 6 years, where his dedication and hard work helped the company to get the Row SPA Gold Awards from the UK's Royal Society for the prevention of accidents in 2020. It's a great pleasure to host you, sir. Over to you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Just first want to have a check. Are you able
We are
to hear
able-
me properly?
Yes, we are able to hear you and see you also properly. So welcome.
Oh,
I'm happy you are joining from North Norway.
yeah. I mean, when Shubham contacted me that there's a talk, I said I'll definitely be there because it's at NITIE with Seema ma'am. I mean, I'll I'll make time and I'll
Thank
ensure
you.
I'll be there. So happy to connect with you all again. And I think I was listening for the last 2 hours to everyone and such a esteemed panel of speakers. I would not want to again, go into the depths of what is already spoken, but I would rather speak today shortly about things and experiences that I've had in the last 10, 12 years of working in sustainability. And something that when I was a student at NITI, probably if I would know, it would have helped me at that time. So I would want to speak around that because, I mean, obviously, when we speak of sustainability, right, or we speak of ESG, I think people tend to speak about indicators. People show the 2030 vision, 2050 vision, and then what are we doing on carbon neutrality, blah blah blah. But ESG or sustainability is such a vast topic, and everything that we do in the operations of a company can be correlated to sustainability. So when the topic came up that we have to speak of ESG initiatives and practices, to be honest, I find it very restricting if we just stick to the 2030 vision or the indicators. So for example, just when a company creates a new factory, for example, and they use a non-VOC paint to paint the walls, it's a sustainability practice, I would say. When the security watchman at the gate ensures that the vehicles don't collide and ensure the safety of the employees, that's a sustainability practice for me. So or even bigger companies now stopping operations in Russia and taking a hit on the business just to ensure the ethics and morals of business. So all of these are sustainability practices. So it's honestly very difficult to restrict to a few indicators. Okay. So I mean, when I speak of ESG practices, what I actually want to speak about is 2, 3 aspects which I hope students consider and try and understand in order to really see why every company or any organization or entity in the world is doing what it is doing when it comes to sustainability, right? ESG as a term, I feel it's very investor driven. It came into being for investors, I feel, to judge a company's performance. But I still prefer the older word of sustainability, right? Now, when we speak of sustainability, first we need to understand what we are trying to sustain. Because just speaking of sustainability, every person has a different opinion. For some people, it's just about not leaving an effluent into a river. For someone, it is about saving the planet. But I think we need to understand that what we are trying to sustain is 2 things. One, it's not honestly about saving the planet to me. The planet will continue to exist in some form or the other, right? As we have seen, even dinosaurs were wiped out and the planet continue to exist. What we are trying to, I think, ensure is the human race continues to sustain the way it is able to sustain at the moment. And second, organizations are trying to sustain themselves in this ever changing environment. Obviously our population, our impact on the planet has been so much that there's a major impact that we are seeing. So we are seeing climate change, right? In this changing environment, how can businesses continue to sustain their performance, continue to generate profits? That's where we most organizations are working. But at the same time, it's necessary for every organization to do what it needs to do to ensure that life on this planet continues the way it is, uh, the way it is continuing right now. So, in these 2 aspects, when you look at sustainability or ESG in this point of view, you suddenly open your mind to a lot more things than the few 5, 6 indicators that you see on sustainability reports or on the website of a company, right? So, I mean, last 10 years I have spent in companies which is an international company doing, I think, at the forefront of sustainability in FMCG, to a Indian company which has been, so Fevicol, everyone knows Pidilite, so it's an Indian listed company, and then now a international company listed in India. And through this, and if you see the sectors also, it's cosmetics, and then chemicals and adhesives, and then now packaging, which packaging in itself has become a very key aspect of sustainability. So through this journey, there are massive, how do I say, inputs that I have received, and I would just like to share them in a few minutes. So, like I said, right, I wanted to speak about why organizations doing what they are doing when it comes to ESG practices. I think there are 3-4 key drivers. One, of course, the intent of the company. If the company, so when we say of sustainability, I feel it talks of how you do business, right? So do you do it in an environmentally conscious manner? Do you do it in a socially conscious manner? Do you do it in a financially conscious manner? So that's why it gets boiled down into ESG. So environment, social, and governance. So the internal policies, the impact on the external stakeholders, internal stakeholders, and obviously your environmental performance. So it's about how you do business, right? And when the company has a right motive to do the business in the right way, I think that's when company, that's one key driver I have seen, that people start enumerating what ESG practices they want to do. Second, of course, has been investors, to be honest, because investors now want to invest in businesses that ensure that they do the business in the right way, right? I mean, honestly, in the last 3 companies I have worked, first week of my joining the company has been a meeting with the investors, and they asking, what are you doing on this aspect, that aspect. So the push is genuinely very genuine, and that's why the companies are actually falling in line, to be honest. Third, I think the consumers are demanding more sustainable products, more sustainable supply chains, to be honest. I mean, so obviously when it comes to cosmetics, for example, the sourcing of palm oil, right? We have seen palm oil farming has impacted the lives of orangutans in Philippines, for example. So consumers are aware of this, and when they demand that, we don't want a product which has palm oil sourced from there, automatically companies are pushed to do better, right? Third, I think it's absolutely amazing to see the regulatory changes that are happening in a country like India. I mean, the last 5 years, the regulatory landscape has changed so much. I mean, now I'm in the packaging industry, so the plastic waste management rules, the extended producer responsibility, it's been amazing, and it's absolutely dynamic. There are new changes coming every 6 months, and very good to see in the right direction. I would say it is making organizations accountable. So 5 years before, you could never think of an infrastructure in our country where companies are collecting equivalent amount of plastic from the, basis sales from the market, post-consumer use, and recycling it back in the value chain. So now in the 5 years, this infrastructure has suddenly grown. Of course, there's a lot more that needs to be done, but this push is again something that that has really driven organizations to take up ESG practices and initiatives. So two aspects rather I want to speak about today is, when I was in the MBA, right, we spoke of materiality assessments, and we casually move over them, but we sometimes forget the importance that materiality assessment has for an organization. That I think is the base platform which is driving every ESG practice and initiative. So obviously, you say United Nations SDGs, right? There are 17 SDGs talking about many things. Is everything relevant to your organization? Probably not. So it's very critical to define the direction an organization needs to take, the aspects that an organization needs to work upon when it comes to sustainability or ESG practices. And materiality assessment, which is done, if done in the right way, it speaks with customers, it speaks with benchmarking with peers, it speaks about your internal practices or employees, your leadership team, external people. So it actually drives a lot of input into the strategy of the company, and that's something that is imperative, I would say, defining ESG practices and initiatives. The second, I think, that needs, and I think it still needs a bit of improvement in our industry, is having a scientific aptitude or attitude towards defining ESG practices. For example, there's a genuine belief that doing away with plastic means it's sustainable. I would say it's absolutely wrong. Honestly, the invention of plastic happened to be a to protect the environment. The first plastic that was invented was actually to replace the usage of ivory, because elephants were poached and ivory was being used to make, say, the billiards cue balls, and they found the first polymer to replace that. The second one was bakelite, which was to replace shellac, which was used as an electrical insulator. So plastic in itself has a lot of how do I say, positive benefit on the environment. It leads to sustainability. Plastic packaging protects food from getting spoiled. Now imagine if you are sitting at home and you are eating so many things, if the food and still we are as a planet, we are 15% wasting our food. Imagine this food comes to you spoiled, the damage of the entire value chain, the impact of the value chain goes waste, right? So packaging in itself has a lot of value when it comes to sustainability. I'll take an example. I'll not take the name, but one of India's major, I had the chance to speak to managing director of one of India's or the most biggest milk companies in India, right? So what they were telling me, using plastic packaging is the most sustainable choice that they have done in the last 10 years or so. I'll give you an example. So if you have to compare, that company sells 6 crore thousand liters of milk every day. Okay. Now, if each liter came into a glass bottle, the volume or the weightage of the packaging would be something around 148 million tons. Just because of you switching to plastic, it has gone to 1 million tons. So 148 times lesser, which the volume has gone down significantly. So that brings in efficiency in your transportation, that brings in efficiency in your overall production footprint. And they have standardized the packaging to LDPE. So, and because of this standardization, it has been very easy to put up a circularity around collecting of that plastic waste post consumer use and recycling it back. So the point I was trying to make is, when you have this scientific approach towards defining practices, I think that is what is needed. Everyone is talking of renewable energy, right? But and India is going to go 50% renewable energy on the grid. But the solar farms and wind farms are coming up in Rajasthan, where the wires are impacting the population of great Indian bustards. Which are a key aspect of the ecosystem in Rajasthan. And if the great Indian bustards and the wolves in that particular ecosystem go off, the ecosystem collapses. So, is this being done through a life cycle assessment? Is this impact being mapped? So this kind of a scientific approach is necessary while defining ESG practices and initiatives. And honestly, this was the only message that I wanted to give when this topic was given to me. I won't go into the depths of indicators and etc. If you want to know, go on any of the websites of the companies, and there are fantastic sustainability reports, that you can learn from. And I don't want to repeat that, but these are some of the messages that I wanted to give. When you think of all of you, the students are going to be sustainability professionals, think of the larger picture, have a scientific aptitude in mind, read a lot, understand the regulatory landscape, understand what the consumers, the investors are asking, and just think, am I doing the business the right way? And if you think it is yes, then probably you're doing the right thing when it comes to an ESG practice. If the answer is no, probably you need to change something. And I think I'll just leave with that message, because I think it's been a long session. But these are some of the aspects and the thoughts that I wanted to incept the students with under this particular topic.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rahul. It's always a pleasure to hear your students speak so well. That too, it was an excellent presentation. I take a lot of pride, the way you have all grown up in your organizations. Many of you have become directors, heads. It is a wonderful thing for us to see you all and hear you all speak. So that was very nice. And I'm so happy that many of the speakers are also touching on life cycle assessment, the need for life cycle assessment. And Rahul actually spoke on it. So it's a very nice systemic way of thinking that is very important. Over to you, Shubham.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rahul sir, for joining us, even though you are in a very remote location. One of the interesting thoughts that stayed with me is it's not about saving the planet, but it's about survival of the human race. You explain about how push from the investors and consumers that companies are facing are helping them to actually moving towards more ESG initiatives. You also mentioned about regulatory changes in India, importance of good materiality assessment for the companies, and you brought a very different perspective on plastic packaging, among many other things. So it was a very enriching session from your side. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Now I
Shubham.
would
Thanks,
like
everyone.
to, yeah. Now I would like to call our last speaker for the day, Mansukh sir. Sir, thank you for your patience, especially. And
Yeah,
Mansukh,
that's true.
Yeah, special thank you from us. Yes.
okay. So Mansukh sir is the Vice President of Sustainability and EHS at Hikal Limited. His impressive work history spans a various variety of businesses, including HUL, Pidilite, Glenmark Generics, and Endofil Industries Limited. He is an MBA graduate from Stanford University, Virginia, USA, and holds an advanced diploma in industrial safety with an experience in both EHS and sustainability roles. Your thoughts on today's discussion would be insightful for us. We welcome you, sir. Over to you.
So thank you, Shubham, for this invite, and good morning and namaskar to everyone who are on the panel, and all veteran co-panelists and members from the NITIE. So it's always challenging for the last speaker, that one part is that it's a pressure of time, and another is that to keep the audience engaged. So this is the two challenge I had to face, and I give a promise that within 10-15 minutes I will finish my presentation so that we can have a time to interact with the students. So that's more important part of this today's session. So one, to begin with, what my previous speaker has told about, that sustainability is not only about the what all other things, indicators, and we will speak about, but it's about the survival of the human race. To addition to that, I wanted to add that it's not about only human race, but it's all races exist and all species exist on this planet Earth. So if you people knowing the Sadhguru, so I'm very fond of Sadhguru and I'm watching his various video. In fact, he is also doing very well for various initiatives on the ESG front. Recently, he has a Kaveri calling and many other such initiatives he take. And he is saying that if earthworm on this earth is vanished from tomorrow, and within 3 years, human race would be over. So every small species in this planet Earth are contributed to the life of the human race. So it's our duty as a ESG professionals that how we can protect not only human race, but the entire race. It's a flora, fauna, and everything. So I think before I get into my technical presentations of my company, that I will take only 5 minutes. I don't want to spend more time on this, but I wanted to pass on few message and some learnings and takeouts from today's session. Is that because all the participants, I think, are not visible. It is not visible to me. It would have been pleasure for me if it would have been physical event, but I don't know how many participants there, students.
Sir, actually, the session is live on YouTube, so we have around 100 students.
Okay, so people are watching from their own homes. Okay. So few learnings or some takeout should be taken for all future leaders, because the students today who are the future leader for the organizations as well as the entrepreneurs in the future. So how they ingrain in their professional life, that how ESG can be practiced in their businesses and the professions which they are going into. So that's more important part. So if I talk about the COP26 recently, the top two things which was discussed in the beginning of COP26 was that we need to recognize the emergency. The emergency is knocking on your door. So pre-era 2 degrees Celsius temperature rise, that's already we reached to 1.1, and now we are set a target that we should reduce it to 1.5. So this is very big emergency. Some of the countries are going to submerged under the sea water. That is the big threats today's world is facing. And second part is that to accelerate the action. Now there are two purpose. I wanted to play one game. Is it okay? I taken permission from the moderator. Can we play one game so that I can engage the people and we can learn from certain kinesthetic actions? Hello. So it's a very simple game. Can all co-panelists can start their videos so that that can be very more interactive for me? That's one small game I wanted to play.
Yes, sir.
So a game is very simple. It takes only 1 minute. I will speak something and accordingly you do an action. So it's very simple. I will speak head. So you should put your hand on head. Chin, you should put on chin. If I'll say air, you should put in air. If I'll say shoulder, you have to put in shoulder. Right? It's very simple. Head, chin, air, shoulder, head. So what was that? I told head and I put this on the chin. And I think I've seen many of you have put your hand on the chin. So what the message today is, I wanted to pass on to all my future aspirants and students that actions are always louder than words. And the first thing which was discussed in the COP26 was that we need to accelerate the actions because the ESG today, because I have experience of around 28 years in the industry, many of the initiatives fails only because of the action. Knowledge is not an issue today. Technology is empowered so much to us that any damn knowledge, if you wanted, then you can get. You don't require Mansukh Patel or any of the co-panelists, which they've given a very big and good discourse to you. You can avail that and a free of cost from the internet. The what required is that how you could be actionable while you go in your professions and in entrepreneurship. So that is more important. So that is what I think all the students has to take up a lesson today, that how I can become an actionable while I go into the industries in the society. Even many of the initiatives in the circular economies fails in the many of the cities, like refuse fuel generations from the municipal waste. In many of the industries, government also given the good subsidies and people has put up the plant, but it could have not worked because the community could not showing their actions. Even in my family, even my society has made a circular ki all your wet refugees and the dry refugees need to collect separately. That's also been not practiced in the society, and those people goes in the industry. They are not different because these are the values which are picking up from the while we are growing up. So these kind of values we need to implant in the future generation. That is how we can giving the justice to the ESG perspective and what all new developments are upcoming into the ESG. So that is one spot message I wanted to pass on to all participants. And let me share my presentation wherein I can just brief you about what my company Hikal is doing for ESG and how we integrate and what we achieved and what are the future plan for the ESG in our organization. So can I share my the screen?
Yes, please.
One sec, give me a moment. I'll just share my screen.
Yeah, yes, surely.
Is it visible?
I think there's a time lag, but we can see that you have shared it. The screen is not visible yet, though.
I don't know how to share this then.
So there is a arrow, top arrow here.
Yeah, I
next to the
took
mic
that.
button. So after you, sort of click on that, you have to then again click on the file or the screen. Then you can share.
Yeah, there is some windows is showing in that. I have to select that window which I wanted to share. No. Is it now? It's showing that it's
Yes,
shared.
Yeah, we
It's
can see
visible
it
now.
clearly now. We can see.
Is it visible?
Yes, yes. Very clear.
Okay. So is it now in the slideshow mode?
Yeah, it is.
So Hikal is in the pharmaceutical and the crop protection business. Actually, this Hikal is came in existence 30 years back. They've started the business Actually, from the environment perspective only, they have started in Dombivli one incinerator in which all industrial waste used to be burnt in the environmental friendly manner, and they then expanded their business into the pharmaceutical and the crop protection business. So since beginning, that environment protection was in the DNA of the Hikal business. So as soon as they started this whole business, we immediately went for the responsible care certifications, which actually address more than 75% of issues which is related with the ESG. So Hikal was certified by the American Council of Chemical Associations in year 2011. So years back, more than 10 years now, Hikal is practicing various sustainability practices. Sustainability is a core value at the Hikal. So now what we do in everything, we ensure that it should be a sustainable and it should be in the benefit of not only the organizations but the community as well as the protecting the environment. This is the ESG vision of our chairman Sri Jai Ramath to improve our community's economic, environmental and social well-being through employee contribution and collaboration. So we even engage our employee for also various initiatives in the community welfare and the CSR activity, as well as those people are also engaged into the various initiatives in the ESG for the environment protection, be it the waste reductions or water conservation, energy conservation and all. And last line, if you read it correctly, we also want to protect and build awareness of our rich ancient heritage and culture. So as a Hindu culture, if you know that in our culture, always we respect and do the puja of Agni, Prithvi, Jal. So this is what we give a respect to the environment. So that is what we need to bring in the awareness and bring in the culture in the business. This is his son, Mr. Samir Hiremath, who is a managing director, and he's also reiterating the various principles should be ingrained into the business which we do. So what are actually drivers for the ESG for not only Hikal but various organizations also? If I give an example that if I ask a question to all panelists or participants can't give an answer, if what is the function of the brake in the car? Can anyone panelist can give an answer to me? It's basically to reduce the speed, right?
To stop the vehicle.
So, but
Yes.
fact is that because of the brake only we can increase the speed of car. If you have been given the car without the brake, can you increase the speed of the car? So ESG is like many a times in the business being considered that it's a cost intensive. It's immediately it can't give a return. So it would be lowering sometime profits. If I will propose that water conservation program for a recycle RO plant needs to be installed. So all require the investment. But in longer perspective, if you see that it would be always returning higher than what we are invested. So it would be an investment rather than it is a cost or expense. So these are the value drivers: grow revenues. It's lower down the operational cost. It's lower the cost of capitals. Then it reduce the risk of various accidents and all those things. Protect the reputations. It's always energize the employees, while that your employees knows that organizations what are doing, that's in betterment of the community, even protection of the environment and the safety, because safety is directly affecting to the people who are working in this. You must have hearing lot many incidents happening across the industries in which many of the recently one fire has happened in Surat in textile mill and around 7-8 people has died. So this life of the persons would be a much important. So if we are practicing all these ESG good practices, that would be motivating and energizing the employee also. Engage the stakeholders. So we are creating the more robust relationship with the all key stakeholders, be it customers, your vendors or your investors. So these are the few initiatives in the different environment, social and governance. We have a wealth from waste program under which various waste have been identified and recycled for the other industry or for our own to promote the circular economy, air water quality, water management. So how we can reduce the water consumptions, biodiversity, we are ensuring GHG emissions, the carbon footprinting. I have a few numbers also in the later stage, so I will not put much time on this. Social, we have a product safety and service of the service safety, then digital privacy, health wellness of the employee, health safety of the employee, emergency preparedness if anything goes wrong in the industrial operation, process safety wherein our process inherently becomes the safer to avoid the incidents that we are ensuring. These are the various KPIs, BBS program, which we have initiated in some point of time. I think twice I had been faculty to give lectures on the BBS program, which is run by the NITIE. So it was very nice interacting with the all students. So these are the value creations by promoting the ESG and sustainable development. We are focusing on the green chemistry. We have R&D center of more than 500 scientists working to create the cleaner processes so that produce the crop protection products. Enzymatic chemistry is something a new concept nowadays, which reduces the chemical uses to promote the and increase the efficiency of the reactions. Efficient use of resources. So we have internal ENCON meeting, wealth from waste programs. ENCON meeting is basically at the corporate level, which are acting on the various energy conservation program. We have a EHS performance metrics by which we can keep a track on the month-to-month basis. Safety health monitoring of the employees, then legal compliance, responsible chemical management. So these are few another carbon footprinting, air emissions, sustainability, sustainable supply chain by which we can influence our vendors and our suppliers also about the various ESG initiatives, and we insist for a minimum standards to practice in their industrial operation also. We have a targets to reduce our water footprints, which is we set around 3% every year till the next 10 years, and already we surpassed all these targets in last 5 years. So these are a few numbers I do have that's in last 5 years. These are the things which we achieved. 57.2% is the carbon reductions, and the water footprint is around 17.6% reduction in our operation. So this is few specific use of the water, which has dropped down from the 14.77 to 6.32 ton per CO2 of the metric ton of products. So this is a carbon footprinting of the our industrial operation. So we reduced from 14.77 ton of carbon emissions per metric ton of product to 6.32 carbon emission per metric ton of product. This is the energy use in last 3 years. We had shifted our energy use from the red is the unconventional fossil fuel energy, which we replaced with the all renewable energies. So green energy. So we achieved around 95%, more than 95% green energy usage in our pharmaceutical business, and the same we are following up in the crop protection business also. We have a target in next 5 years. We wanted to become 100% renewable energies dependent. So these are few actions we initiated. Solar and wind power, we have done the agreements with the various company. Fossil fuel we replaced with the briquettes, which is the agri waste. So from agri waste we are making our steam, so we don't require to use furnace oil or coal or anything for running of boiler. We even reduced the CFL from LED, motor replacement, which is of higher energy efficiency. Paper waste recycling also we have initiated. This is the water conservation program in which we reduced 211.3 KL of water consumption per metric ton to the 173. So almost around 15 to 20% of reduction in the water consumption. These are few initiatives. I don't want to spend some time, but because of the time limit. RO plant we installed for the recycle of the treated water. Rainwater harvesting we did some steam condensate recovery. So because of all these initiatives, we even received the CII National Awards for the excellence in the water management in the 2020. ESG, there is a more emphasis on the even CSR activities also. We have very well run organized with the thought-provoking CSR programs run by our corporate HR head. So we have given these 5 names for 5 different initiatives. The ANHAT, which is focusing on environment and ecology protection. Then MEDA is the education and skill development. Kausalya is related with the health and sanitation, employee contributions, wherein we are engaging our own employee for the various CSR activities also. And one another unique initiative which we have is that the protection of the national heritage. So that also we are tied up with few organizations and we are doing such activities. So because of the all this good was one under the region, we actually renovated one lake in the Bangalore where it's nearby, just in back of our industry, where we are manufacturing our major pharmaceutical product, gabapentin. So whole this lake has been renovated by the Hikal. So I will just share few pictures. So this was earlier the conditions, and now today it looks like this. Here the advantages in the surrounding farmers as well as the local community. This becomes a picnic spot for the local community, and even this various bird species are also started coming in the kind of a bird sanctuary it becomes nowadays after rejuvenation of this lake. Because of the various CSR activities, Hikal received few even awards also, CII Social Impact Awards we received. Then Hikal received the ET Now CSR Leadership Awards. Then Best CSR Impact Initiatives Award G Business has presented in 2019. Then Hikal has also associated with the human values, this afforestation project. So near Rabale, we had 1 acre of the land in which we continually doing the plantation. And every environment day, even last environment day, we had a plantation of more than 1,000 trees, and that's completely maintained and ensured by Hikal to grow it up. So these are few more accolades to Hikal for the various CSR activities. And we also received the Golden Peacock Awards for the CSR activities. So closing remarks is that ESG must be embedded in the mission, what we are doing the business. Performance should be a more important. So that's related with the actions. It's not about the speaking the things. No greenwashing. So it's not tactical actions only. You should be more focused. You should be more transparent what you are doing. ESG drives value in the middle terms, and avoid risk creates platform for both market development and operation efficiency. So we need to have leaders who can contribute very effectively to the industry, as well as if they go for the entrepreneurship. Various ideas have been given by lot many other my co-panelists. You should work towards circular economy, how we can reduce the fossil fuel use. So these are all startups in the futures would be going to really get the good success. Recently, I had been fortunate to be a part of the FICCI conclave recently in the I think before 2 weeks it has happened, and various dignitaries from the government authorities also participated and shared their knowledge. So circular economy would be a very prime focus. Renewable energy, another is a prime focus. So being a student of the sustainability, these are all open futures for you. How you would be able to really transfer your knowledge into the actions that depend on your success. So with this, I am closing this, my presentation and my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Manoj Patel. It was really wonderful, and thanks for your patience also. And I really liked how you explained that actions speak louder than words. And you also mentioned and linked it to greenwashing. So very nice, yes. Excellent presentation. Thanks. Over to you, Shubham.
Thank you, Mansukh sir, for such an engaging session. You started with the importance of biodiversity by giving an example of earthworm. Some of the important points mentioned by you were COP26 highlighting of accelerating the actions. You demonstrated it with the importance of actions with a fun exercise. You also gave some example from our day-to-day life that kept our participants engaged. Also, you mentioned some initiatives taken at Hikal. You brought various perspectives from a pharmaceutical industry. It was a very enriching session from you, sir. Thank you so much. Now I would like to call Professor Seema ma'am for the Q&A session.
Thank you, Shubham. So we have had many questions people have sent over WhatsApp to me. So I will selectively choose because of lack of time. So the first question is, we all know that scope 3 emissions are very challenging. And, we have to actually take our suppliers, vendors and all into our loop. So how do we do it? How do we encourage our suppliers and all members of the value chain, how do we encourage them to improve their ESG performance? Any of you can answer.
I think
This
one
is a-
person was from the logistic. He can be better give an answer
I'll
to
ask
this.
Prashant maybe.
Thank you. So I will try to answer this. See, this is a process. The way I look at it is, first step is educating them, engaging with them. And I think we'll have to spend a lot of energy in identifying who are my critical suppliers and start those engagements, start meeting them on a quarterly basis, tell them how to calculate the greenhouse gas inventory, why monitoring or measurement is actually going to help them in business as well as sustainability. See, BRSR, if you look at it, it's right now for 1,000 companies. It is going to be extended to others also. So suppliers would probably need to be prepared to rise up to that challenge. I think once you have crossed that stage where there is an appreciation around why it should be important to me as a business, we can start having certain expectations around it. So expectations in terms of them start reporting the information. Second thing that comes to my mind is life cycle assessment. Now, life cycle assessment has now become mandatory for, it's becoming a part of BRSR. We did not hear life cycle assessment so much in past. We were very happy with what happens within our four walls. But now people are extending the range from extraction to the disposal or recycling. So that's also going to become a very important tool in understanding my environmental impact across the value chain, not only GHG. And yeah, so that's kind of covers. This is how we need to take the small steps and move forward. This is not going to happen overnight, but the carrot and stick approach will work in bringing in more suppliers and other value chain partners in the overall sustainability gap.
Yeah, that's a wonderful answer, Prashant. Would you like to say anything, Mr. Manoj?
Yeah, one thing which I think Prashant has told, that's very much true. That would be not overnight. So we need to first start sensitizing our all value partners in the logistics. Actually, first need is that because this logistic is a very unorganized sector now, because of various business opportunities, little bit big few conglomerates have come in this business, but it's a very informal sector. So education and knowledge level, that's a very bigger issues there. And I think I was quoting that FICCI, I was there in that conclave, and even government is also focusing for the educations and the knowledge improvement related with all these issues to the all logistic partners also. There are few organizations also working on this to enrich their knowledge is the first prima facie required. So even organizations can also play an important role to educate them. First thing is that they should be knowing about the issues and how to calculate the carbon the thing and how does it affect and how it can be incorporated as a business performance to their business. That is very key important thing to have because they need to understand that this would be a key driver in future to get a big business and grow the business. So that is what I think lacking of knowledge.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Mr. Manoj, would you like to say anything, Mr. Manoj?
Yeah, no, I mean I have not nothing specific to add. I think, but the most important thing is the awareness, and it takes time. It takes time, to talk to people and then to explain them. I was in Chandigarh, for one of the SHM conferences, and we had a lot of SME people there. The point is they are doing all the right things. It is not that they are not doing that, but to bring it to a framework, to present it, to quantify it, and that is where I said, the awareness on the data capture and then presenting it well. That thing has to happen with the SME and with the suppliers, which are smaller. So it's some sort of a carrot, more than the stick, I would say some sort of a carrot, formally, awarding the suppliers, which are actually doing well, is going to help a lot. Yeah, thank you.
Very true. And I fully agree with Prashant. The principle 2 of BRSR speaks about the whole value chain from a life cycle perspective. So, that helps in this whole value chain, actors being part of your educational programs, awareness building sessions. That is very, very important. So thank you so much for all your inputs. I think because of shortage of time, we'll have to send all the remaining questions to you via email. So I will hand it over back to Shubham. Shubham.
Thank you so much, ma'am. On the behalf of entire NITIE fraternity, I would like to thank all the panelists for sparing their valuable time to address our students and faculty. I would also like to thank our director, Professor Manoj K. Tiwari, sir, and Dean of Student Affairs, Professor Rauf Iqbal, sir, for their continuous efforts to facilitate an excellent learning environment for students at NITIE, and Professor Seema, ma'am, for seamlessly moderating the session. It was an honor to host this session alongside with you, ma'am. I thank everyone for attending the conclave with so much enthusiasm and passion. This event was coordinated by Sustainability and Youth Forum, a student forum of NITIE. I now request everyone to kindly switch on their cameras for a virtual photographs with our guests.
Gently, Professor Vidyadhar is an expert in this. Huh? He keeps taking photographs for all of us. So thank you so much to one and all for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks
sir.
for inviting me.
Thanks.
Photograph
sir.
is taken. Thank
you,
you everyone again, and I request Vairag from Say Forum to please close the live streaming.
Thank you.
Thank you.